You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of What If Naruto Enters Power Rangers. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Windstorm 16 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. After meeting Yugao and learning that they'd be going to Takimi village to get him a new sword, Naruto had soon left the training ground to find Satsuki and Hinata, wanting to tell them where he'd be going in a few days, and that he would likely be gone for a while. Luckily, the Uzumaki soon found both his teammates, the girls seeing him as well before the three approached each other. "Hey, how was it at the hospital?" Naruto asked, wondering how their training with Kabuto was, and if they'd learned anything already. "It was good so far. We didn't really train much in medical ninjutsu besides the basics, along with learning about the duties of being medic nin," replied Hinata with a smile, eager for the chance to learn more medical ninjutsu, knowing it'll be very useful with her Byakugan. "I wasn't able to learn much, though I still need to work on my chakra control before I can start practicing medical ninjutsu," Satsuki added, still not liking that she had to wait to get started on learning medical ninjutsu, but was pleased at the scrolls she found in her clan's compound to train in. "That's good, and I'm sure you'll be able to get your chakra control good enough soon, Satsuki." "Did anything else happen?" said Naruto as the three began walking together. "We did meet Kurenai, the Jonin sensei of Team 8. They've even completed their own C-rank mission, while Sakura's also begun learning genjutsu from Kurenai, since she already has near-perfect chakra control," Satsuki said, with the whiskered ravenet humming in thought at this. "Kurenai and I also spent some time together, since she was my caretaker during my time in the academy. I told her about our last mission, and was really impressed at what we were able to do, and relieved that we all made it back safely. She also was interested in everything you did, Naruto-kun, even being interested to meet you," said Hinata, making Naruto looking at her with a raised brow. "I'll keep that in mind," Naruto said, not really used to people wanting to meet him or want anything to do with him at all. Though he supposed if Kurenai did approach him, it could be a chance to see if he could learn some genjutsu, or at the very least learn how to better spot and dispel them, given his chakra reserves weren't ideal for being able to cast illusions. "I also found this, and thought you might like," said Satsuki, pulling out a copy of the Itoryu scroll and tossing it to Naruto, with the Jinchuriki catching it and saw at what it was. "Itoryu? Is that a kenjutsu style or something?" asked Naruto, curious about learning a new kenjutsu style, while Satsuki nodded in response. "Yeah, it's something I found while looking through my clan's jutsu library to find anything that I could train in. I also found one called Nitoryu to learn for my swords, while I figured that one would be better suited for you," Satsuki replied, making Naruto nod in thanks while pocketing the scroll. "Thanks, it'll definitely be useful, even better that I'll be getting a new sword soon," Naruto said, with Satsuki and Hinata looking at him at this. "You're getting a new sword? Did you have one commission to be made?" Hinata asked, guessing he must have done so after leaving the Hokage Tower. "No, Yugao-sensei came to me while I was training and told me that she got the Hokage's permission for us to travel to Takimi village in the Land of Rivers. It's a village of blacksmiths known for the unique weapons they create, making it a good place to go get a new sword. We're supposed to leave in a few days, giving me time to prepare and tell the few friends I have where I'll be going," Naruto said, surprising the girls before nodded in understanding, glad he'll be getting new sword. Even better if it'll be a unique and stronger one. Though they were also saddened he'd be gone for a bit, before shaking it off, knowing he'd be back eventually with his new weapon. "Well then, how about we get some training done before you go? You could at least start learning the basics of the Itoryu to be even better once you have your new sword," Satsuki suggested, with Naruto and Hinata nodding in agreement. "Yeah, it'd be nice for us to train together some more before you leave, Naruto-kun," Hinata added with a smile, liking the chance to train with her teammates before the Uzumaki leaves. Okay, then let's go, said Naruto with the trio heading towards the training grounds to find one they could use. Oi, Aniki, Satsuki Nichin, Hinata Nichin. Hearing the familiar voice and titles, the three genin stopped and looked to see Kanoka running towards them, along with seeing two other kids running alongside her. The first is a boy with short brown hair and dark eyes, a seemingly constant drip of snot hanging from his nose, and circular glasses, with him wearing a simple blue shirt which was zipped up the middle, a pair of brown pants, ninja sandals. And the second is another girl with orange hair tied up, with red elastics, into two very large pigtails, a perpetual blush on her cheeks, and dark purple, almost black, eyes, with her attire consisting of a red tank top over a pink t-shirt, gray pants, blue ninja sandals. With Naruto, Satsuki, and Hinata also noticing the three kids were wearing goggles, Kanoka's being slightly hidden by her hat, seeing they were the same as the ones Naruto had. Kanoka? And who are your friends? Naruto asked, looking at the three children, raising brow when they suddenly jumped and posed. I'm Mogi, the cutest girl in the academy. I'm Udon, I like math. And I'm the leader, Kanoka Saratobi, and together we're the Kanoka Ninja Squad, said all three children as they posed together, with the genin having different reactions to their introduction. With Satsuki looking at them blankly before sighing and pinching the bridge of her nose while Hinata smiled, finding the introduction adorable. And Naruto also looked at them blankly with a small twitch in his eye. I feel the need to hunt down and destroy a group of teenagers in colored spandex, Naruto thought, blinking in confusion at where that came from before shaking his head. So, I take these are friends of yours from the academy, Naruto stated, with Kanoka nodding with a smile. Yeah, these are Mogi Kazumatsuri and Udon Eyes. And check it out, Aniki, we have goggles just like you. Now, replied Kanoka while showing off their goggles. And you three look very good with them. It's also nice to meet you both, Mogi, Udon, Hinata said, smiling at them, which they returned. It's nice to meet you guys, too. Kanoka talks about you a lot and says you're all really strong, even helping her with her training, said Udon, sniffling slightly, while Mogi nodded in agreement. Yeah, and we really wanted to meet you three. Kanoka also said you and Satsuki were really pretty, and that Naruto was the coolest, said Mogi with a teasing smile at her friend, making Kanoka blush slightly. Did she? Well, it's certainly nice to hear you think we're really pretty, Kono-chan, Satsuki said with a smirk as Kanoka's blush intensified. Well, it's true, nothing else. Really? Kanoka stuttered before yelping when Naruto flicked her forehead. Don't worry, Kono-chan, we think you're pretty and cool too, said Naruto, smirking at the young girl. Aniki, come on, stop it, whined Kanoka while trying to hide her red face, with Naruto chuckling lightly while Hinata giggled and Satsuki smirked. All right, Kanoka. So, since your friends wanted to meet us, does that mean you three would like to join us for some training? Hinata said, with the three children immediately nodding and smiling in excitement. Yeah, the three kids said with Kanoka being eager to train with them again, while Mogi and Udon were excited after hearing and seeing how their friends improved since training with the three genin. Then let's go, we were just about to go get some training done, so your timing is pretty good, said Satsuki, motioning the three to follow them to the training grounds. Though unknown to the group, they were being watched by Hanabi, the Hyuga heiress having originally spotted her sister and her teammates and intended to ignore them, only to stop when she saw Kanoka, Mogi, and Udon run towards them, feeling angry and jealous when she saw them interacting with Hinata, even more with how happy Hinata seemed to have them join her and her teammates. Fine, what do I care? She already replaced me with someone else. Who cares if she wants more siblings to help forget me? She's the worst sister, anyway, Hanabi thought, still feeling jealous and anger that Hinata was choosing to spend more time with other kids than she ever did with her, especially with how her leaving the Hyuga clan had affected the young heiress much more than she expected it would. Flashback. Hanabi gritted her teeth as she repeatedly struck the training post again and again, using more force with each palm strike, not caring about the growing pain in her hands as she did so. The Hyuga heiress only able to hear her father's words echoing in her mind with each strike. Again, Hanabi, you must show hesitance or restraint in your strikes. Power, precision, and speed are necessary to use the Juken to its full potential. Now again. Is this hard enough? Hanabi mentally screamed while delivering a palm thrust, causing a large crack to appear in the post. But even then Hanabi didn't stop striking it. With the young girl starting to lose focus of where she even is anymore as she kept striking the tree again and again. Her mind instead focusing on how much more difficult her training has become ever since Hinata had left. Her father pushing her harder than ever before, not wanting the main family to look weak after how he couldn't even stop his oldest daughter from leaving. A daughter that should be doing this and not me. It's supposed to be her destiny to be heiress, not mine, Hanabi thought angrily, remembering her grandfather's words about destiny after seeing her father use the caged bird seal on Neji. All of us are born into this world bearing our own destiny, and everything we do is for the sake of the Hyuga clan. What does it matter if people will just leave the Hyuga clan? Hanabi thought as the crack in the post grew larger as her thoughts unwilling turned towards her sister. Why? Hanabi muttered repeatedly, wanting to know why Hinata would leave the clan behind, why she'd leave her behind. Unable to help. But think of when she spied on her sister's training when she was still the Hyuga heiress, when she'd come to her room the night after and still play with her, despite being tired and hurt. How she wanted to be strong just like Hinata, but also kind and caring too, leading to her training on her own. Only for the day to come when they were forced to fight each other to decide who would be the heiress of the Hyuga clan. And she lost. She was supposed to be strong. It was supposed to be her destiny to be heiress, but she still lost, thought Hanabi with her breathing growing heavy. But even then, Hinata was always the comforting presence she could turn to, even with how she acted coldly towards her. Though it still didn't do much to lessen the hurt and disillusionment she felt at now being stuck with a title and position she never asked for. But Hinata still cared about her and wanted to spend time together, tried to comfort her when she needed it, despite how coldly she treated her. Until she replaced me with someone else, decided to leave to be with her new friends. She doesn't need me, and I don't want anything to do her at all. I'm perfectly fine on my own. I don't need her or anyone else, Hanabi thought before she suddenly stopped hitting the post, looking at her hand with wide eyes at seeing at some point she'd started punching it rather than delivering palm thrusts. Seeing her knuckles were now bleeding, not to mention the pain she could feel in her palms. Looking back at the post, Hanabi saw the damage done to it, along with specks of her blood staining the wood. Not even knowing what she was doing anymore, Hanabi turned and ran back inside the compound, breathing heavily without care of if anyone saw her. The brunette not even knowing where she was going, only that her body was taking her somewhere. Until finally she ran into a room and slid the door closed with a loud bang. Panting as she pressed her back against the door, Hanabi slid down to the floor while trying to calm herself down and focus her thoughts. But when she looked up and saw just what room she'd run into, Hanabi felt something just snap inside her mind at seeing she ended up running into Hinata's old room. Before feeling her entire body start to shake at the sight of the now empty room, thinking of the times she and Hinata spent together in here before their fight, the last time she saw Hinata in here. Hanabi couldn't stop herself from screaming in pure agony, pain, hurt, and anger, with everyone in the compound hearing and jumping at the sudden scream. The girl not caring anymore who heard her, or even about the tears she could feel in her eyes. "Why did you leave me?" Hanabi screamed before suddenly lunging forward and began tearing the room apart. Ripping apart the bed and pillow, sending stuffing flying everywhere, before going over to the desk and grabbing the chair, throwing it against the wall. With her then tipping the desk over and hitting it repeatedly, breaking the legs off and throwing them around as well. Before turning her attention to the bookshelf, running over and grabbing, tipping it over as well, before stomping on top of it until it broke beneath her. Hanabi didn't stop tearing the room apart and smashing everything she could get her hands, until she stood in the center of the now destroyed room, holding her hands to her head and screaming as loudly as she could, before the brunette soon collapsed to the ground in exhaustion and the emotional overload. End flashback. When she'd woken up, Hanabi had found her father standing over her, now in her own room and learning that she'd been unconscious for nearly an entire day. Before she has then been brought before the entire Hyuga Council, where they had proceeded to chew her out at her behavior, how it was unfitting for a member of the main family. Especially given the aftermath of her breakdown had been seen by several members of the branch family, with her act being something that could weaken them in their eyes, after how her father allowed a failure like Hinata to leave the Hyuga clan without branding her with the caged bird seal to protect their secrets, calling into the question their family's ability to continue leading the Hyuga clan. While Hanabi normally would be ashamed at her behavior and swear to make up for it and do better, after what she went through, she didn't even care. Not caring what the elders or the rest of the clan thought of her, not caring for the concern shown to her by some of the branch family members, nor caring about those that she knew secretly enjoyed her torment, Hanabi just didn't care. She still apologized and swore to do better, but only out of instinct, as she didn't actually plan to, but still put on the act of a perfect little heiress. While on the inside, Hanabi could still feel like she'd break down at any moment, but did her best to keep it bottled like she always has since becoming the Hyuga heiress. Only for it to prove much harder than it was before, feeling like she's now trying to fill up a broken jar. No matter how hard she tries, she couldn't hold back her emotions, especially when it came to Hinata and the new replacements she has for her. What makes them better than me? They don't look like anything special, nor do they have any talent, Hanabi thought with a scowl before deciding to follow Team 7 and the other children. Wanting to prove, most to herself, that the replacements her sister chose were nothing compared to her. Asterisk with Team 7 and Konoka Ninja Squad asterisk. So, Mogi, Udon, did you two meet Konoka in the academy? Naruto asked as they made their way towards an empty training ground. We met not long before we all entered the academy, replied Udon, with Mogi and Konoka nodding in agreement. Yeah, we all met at the park and spent the entire day playing together. We've been friends ever since, and were all really excited when we were enrolled in the academy, Mogi added, happy that they were all in the same class together. But some of the classes are really boring, like learning flower arranging and learning other cultures, which just seems useless. And then Iruka-sensei's lectures just keep going on and on, forever, said Konoka, hating how most of their classes are boring and hardly let them learn any ninja techniques. Only to yelp when Hinata flicked her forehead this time, surprising the brunette given the Hyuga was normally the nicer genin. You shouldn't ignore your lessons, even if they don't seem useful, even if they're not all about fighting and learning jutsu. Also, I'll have you know that flower arranging and learning other cultures are very important, especially for Kunoichi, as we'd be the ones most likely sent on infiltration missions since we're able to look less threatening than shinobi. And learning about flower arrangements and other cultures allows us to help blend in better with different societies, making it less likely for Kunoichi to be discovered. It's also useful to learn about different types of flowers and plants since they can also be used in making medicines and poisons, something that'd be useful to know when outside of the village. Hinata explained, wanting to them to understand how such knowledge is important. Plus, part of her felt a little insulted at Konoka's words of flower arranging being useless, given her own hobby of pressing flowers and learning more about different types of flowers. She's right about all of that, and that it can be interesting to learn about other cultures in the world, giving you more knowledge of things outside the village. As for Uruka's lectures, think of it as learning patience, something that will help you on missions that won't have you doing a lot of fighting, said Satsuki, making the students gain thoughtful looks before nodding, with Konoka doing so a little reluctantly. Yeah, okay. I'll try looking at the classes differently, Konoka said, still preferring if they had more lessons on jutsu and fighting, only to yelp again when Naruto flicked her. What was that for? Said Konoka in annoyance at being flicked again. I've already said it amuses me and that your pouting face is adorable. Even better when you get embarrassed about it, said Naruto with a smirk, making the young brunette blush and look away, before glaring at her friends when they started laughing. So besides being ninja, is there anything else you two wanted to do after becoming ninja? Naruto asked while looking at Mogi and Udon, with Satsuki and Hinata doing the same, curious to learn more about Konoka's friends. Maybe when I'm older. I thought about becoming a teacher at the academy since it does seem nice to teach students and help them become ninja, especially since I really like learning new things and I could probably still learn a lot by teaching at the academy. Or maybe even join the cryptanalysis team. Yeah, maybe I could join that since we learned about it. It seems like it'd be really fun joining that to help solve problems, deciphering codes and messages, and everything seeming like a puzzle to be solved. replied Udon, liking the idea of becoming a teacher at the academy or joining the cryptanalysis team to decipher secret codes and messages. That's a good goal to have, wanting a chance to help guide new generations at the academy, or helping to decipher codes and messages. But either goal means you'll really have a lot of work and studying to do to be able to qualify for either role. Though you seem like you're already pretty smart, so I'm sure you'll have what it takes one day, said Satsuki, with Naruto and Hinata nodding in agreement, making the glasses-wearing boy smile at her words. What about you, Mogi? Do you just want to be a ninja or join another division? Asked Hinata as she looked at the Orangette. I want to be one of the best kunoichi in the world, and also the prettiest idol too, Mogi said while striking a pose, while the genin looked at her in slight surprise. An idol? Hinata said, not expecting that, with Mogi nodding happily. Yep, I don't want to just be really strong, I want to be super beautiful too. And there's never really been a kunoichi who was also an idol before, so that'll make me the first, said Mogi, making the genin think it over for a moment. Well, it's certainly a unique goal, Satsuki stated, the brunette nodding in agreement. Yeah, it is, though I'm sure it's one you'll be able to reach, Mogi, Naruto said, with Mogi looking at him surprised. Really? Mogi asked, given how everyone else, outside of Kanoka and Udon, thought it was stupid and made fun of her for it, with the whiskered ravenet nodding in response. Yes, it's definitely not a profession one would expect a kunoichi to have, but that also makes it perfect, given it'd make enemies underestimate you, thinking that you focus more on your looks than your skills, along with helping to throw them off guard when you show how capable you are. Not to mention it'd be useful in helping blend in and wearing a disguise on missions. So, yeah, I believe that you'd be able to do it, making you an even better kunoichi in the process, said Naruto, making the Orangette smile brightly at his words. Thank you, Naruto Nichin, and yeah, I'll be the best kunoichi and idol I can be when I'm older, said Mogi, feeling happy and touched at his confidence in her dream. Kanoka was right, he really is cool, Mogi thought while looking at the Uzumaki in admiration. I'm sure you will. It helps that you certainly have the confidence for it, and like you said, you are the cutest girl in the academy already, Naruto said, smirking at Mogi, with her blushing at this. Are really? Mogi asked shyly, since that's just how she introduces herself along with Kanoka and Udon. Yeah, you have unique features with your hair and eyes, helping you stand out more. I'm sure you'll grow into a beautiful woman as well, replied Naruto, with Mogi's blush intensifying, while Kanoka's eye twitched. Though you'll also have Kanoka to compete with as well, Naruto added, making the brunette smirk at her friend. Yeah, Mogi, I'll be an even stronger kunoichi, maybe even be an idol too, since I'm in need of a new goal since I don't want to be Hokage anymore, Kanoka said, with Mogi narrowing her eyes at her friend before smirking. Are you sure about that, Kanoka? I wouldn't want to worry about hurting your feelings by upstaging you, Mogi said, with the Sarutobi scoffing. Alright, that's enough, besides we're here, Naruto said, stopping them before things could escalate as they arrived at an empty training ground, making the three children perk up before looking at the genin eagerly. So, what are we going to learn first, Aniki? Kanoka asked, eager to see what they'll be training in today. How about giving you three a little head start for when you become genin, said Satsuki, with Naruto and Hinata nodding in agreement. What kind of head start? Asked Udon, with the Uchiha pulling out 3 pieces of chakra paper. This is called chakra paper. It's used to help ninja find out their elemental affinity in order to master them. Obviously, we won't actually be training you 3 to master your affinities, that'll be up to your Jonin sensei. But it'll be something useful to know later on, allowing you to better focus on elemental ninjutsu you're aligned with. Just channel some chakra into the paper to see what your affinities are, Satsuki explained before handing them the chakra paper. Nodding, the 3 students channeled some chakra into the paper. With Udon's getting wet, Mogi's got wet before crumbling into dirt, and Kanoka's was cut in half before igniting. What does that all mean? Mogi asked as they looked at their chakra paper, or what was left of them for her and Kanoka. It looks like Udon has a water affinity, Mogi has both an earth affinity as well as a water affinity too, while Kanoka has a wind affinity and fire affinity, Satsuki said with a nod, seeing that they had good affinities that could cover each other very well. Alright, I got two awesome affinities, with them being way cooler than earth or water, Kanoka said, smirking at Mogi, who stuck her tongue out at the brunette before smirking when Naruto flicked Kanoka. Yes, you have a fire affinity and wind affinity, with the former being useless against Mogi's water affinity. Just because you have affinities that are good for attacking, doesn't mean they're all powerful. While having an earth affinity and water affinity means Mogi would be capable of not just attacking, but defending as well. Along with being capable of hiding underground, changing the terrain of a battlefield, and manipulating any form of earth around her. While her water affinity is just as useful since it'd be strong against fire-style ninjutsu, as well as capable of slowing down or even trapping opponents. The same applies to Udon's own water affinity, said Naruto, with the orangeette smirk growing while Kanoka looked down. But that also doesn't mean your own affinities aren't still powerful. I have a wind affinity as well, which is supposed to be really rare in the land of fire, making it a good surprise to have against opponents. Having a fire affinity to go along with your wind affinity makes it even more powerful if you combine them together for even more powerful attacks. You could even combine wind-style ninjutsu with water-style ninjutsu, giving them both more range, coverage, and power. Naruto said, making Kanoka look up happily before smirking at Mogi, pleased at having the same affinity as her crush. Hear that, Mogi, I'll be able to help you when your water starts falling short, said Kanoka, Mogi returning the smirk. You mean after I use it to cool off that hot head of yours, you mean? Or when you have your head in the clouds and need to be brought back down to earth, said Mogi, with Kanoka scowling in annoyance. As long as you don't have your head buried in the ground for too long, Kanoka retorted, while Satsuki and Hinata traded a look as they saw Kanoka and Mogi trading barbs. Both genin wondering if that's what they would have been like if they were friends in the academy with their respective crushes on Naruto. Okay, now that we know what your affinities are, let's go on to the actual training. It'll be a chakra control exercise, something every ninja learns once they become genin, Hinata said, getting the children's attention. Is it that one you taught Aniki and Satsuki Nichin to walk up trees? Or what about the one where you three walked on water? Kanoka asked excitedly, having wanted to be able to learn that when she first saw it, while Hinata nodded in response. The first one, since water walking is still a little advanced. Kanoka's already heard the explanation of what the exercise requires. But Mogi, Udon, pay attention. What you need to do is focus a fixed amount of chakra to the bottom of your feet. Doing so allows you to stick to practically any surface. Like this, Hinata said before walking up to a tree. Much to Mogi's and Udon's shock and amazement, she walked right up to it like it was the ground. You need to make sure you use enough chakra, otherwise you won't stick to the tree and fall off. But if you use too much chakra, then you'll be blown off of it, said Hinata before jumping off the tree. You three will be doing that for today, and if you manage to succeed in sticking to the tree, then start running up and down it until you get low on chakra. It'll help to build up your chakra control and chakra reserves, as well as being good physical exercise. And the more you do it, you'll eventually start sticking subconsciously without needing to actively channel chakra to your feet. Understood? Said Naruto. Hi, the children said, nodding in response. Then start climbing, Satsuki said, motioning to 3 trees lined up together, with the students quickly running over to them and began working on walking up the trees. Later, the Konoha Ninja Squad had continued practicing the surface walking exercise for a few hours with Team 7 overseeing their progress, with Mogi proving to already have pretty good chakra control, having gotten higher than Konoha and Udon have. Something which only pushed Konoha to try harder at mastering the exercise, refusing to let the orangeette get ahead of her. Though they did need to stop every once in a while, due to them still not having very large chakra reserves, only to get right back to it once they were rested. All 3 of them being determined to master the exercise as quickly as they could, while Naruto, Satsuki, and Hinata mostly remained off to the side, offering some advice and tips when it was needed. Before the whiskered ravenet had gone and sat under a tree, pulling out a notebook and pen before he began making sketches of the sword he planned to have made in Takimi village. Should it just be the crescent blade? Naruto thought, looking at the drawing he made of Zen-Aku's crescent blade, wondering if he should just have a replica of it made. Given with the Duke Wolf's memories, it would be easy for him to learn to wield and master the weapon. But at the same time, Naruto didn't want to just base his fighting style around Zen-Aku's own abilities. Even though he's the Duke Wolf's successor, he also wanted to find his own style as well. Maybe just have some parts from it, without being a replica, thought Naruto as he began modifying the sketch, removing or adding a few details while changing others. Until soon the sword now resembled an oversized kyber knife, though it didn't have a handle and instead just an oversized tang. With Naruto smiling at the design, feeling that he's now on the right track with the design of the sword he wanted. The only problem is there's no handle, Naruto thought before he began making some more modifications to the blade. With Satsuki and Hinata looking over at their friend, getting curious when they saw him drawing in a notebook, making them trade a look before going over to him. The girls, seeing that Naruto was making sketches of a sword, realizing he must be thinking of a design for the one he wanted made. "Is that the sword you're going to have made in Takimi village?" Hinata asked as they stood on either side of Naruto, making the Uzumaki look up at them before nodding. "Yeah, I have a good idea of what I want it to look like. Now I'm just focusing on the smaller details and any additions I'd want to include. Given Takimi village is known for producing unique and special weapons, it couldn't hurt if I had some extra features to my sword," replied Naruto, with the girls nodding in agreement at this before looking over what he already had so far. What about it having the ability to absorb and store chakra within it, allowing you to either release the stored up chakra as an attack without using your own or transfer the chakra to you if you're running low? Satsuki suggested, with Hinata nodding in agreement, knowing that'd be a useful ability, while Naruto hummed in thought and wrote the idea down. Maybe even make it possible to turn the chakra stored inside it into elemental chakra, letting you use elemental techniques even if you can't use the element the chakra is turned into, like being able to use lightning style or earth style techniques with it, said Hinata, with Naruto writing her idea down as well. Good ideas and would be very useful. Another potential feature I was thinking of is making it so only I'd be able to use the sword, while anyone else who tries grabbing it would be drained of their chakra, making it easier to take enemies down if I just trick them into picking up the sword, said Naruto, with Satsuki and Hinata nodding in agreement, since definitely be a good ability to include. One other thing I'd say is that given how big it seems you're going to have it be, maybe another feature is that it can shrink down or transform into a smaller sword. That way you won't be at a disadvantage if you're fighting in a more closed-in location, said Satsuki, with Naruto nodding at this, given he did plan to have the sword be pretty large. What sword, Aniki? Konoka asked as she, Mogi, and Udon came over, after getting curious of what the genin were doing and seeing Naruto drawing something. A sword I'm planning to have commissioned in a few days. We were just thinking of different features and abilities it could have, Naruto replied, showing them what he has so far and the ideas that were suggested. Oh, you should give it a chain at the end. Then you could swing it around to hit enemies. No, wait, put another sword on the end of the handle so you can attack twice as many enemies, Konoka said excitedly at the chance to help her crush design his weapon. That wouldn't make any sense. He could end up hitting a teammate, and putting another sword on it would make it too heavy. He should make it be able to transform into other weapons. That'd be way cooler and more useful to have it be able to transform, said Mogi. Why have it turn into other weapons when it already is a weapon? Besides, Aniki's sword would already be awesome. It wouldn't need to turn into anything else. And he could have another sword on the end of the chain. Then he could throw one and swing around after it hits something, said Konoka. It'd be cooler to turn into other weapons and be a big surprise, Mogi stated. Maybe something to cover your hand with. Konoka's uncle has these trench knives he wears on his hands. Maybe you could have something like that, suggested Udon, with Konoka eagerly nodding in agreement. Yeah, Uncle Asuma uses trench knives to fight and channels chakra into them to make them longer. You could do the same, Aniki. Then you'd be able to also punch enemies and make your sword longer, Konoka said. Naruto nodded at their suggestions, knowing that most of them were pretty impractical and childish, but some of them did have merit and could be changed a little to be more realistic and useful, with his teammates and the students making more suggestions of features and abilities his sword could have, while the Uzumaki wrote down the ones he liked or thought would be useful. All the while they were unaware of Hanabi watching them through the trees, clenching her fists in anger at how close her sister was being with Konoka and her friends. having been watching them the entire time as they headed towards the training ground and when they arrived. Feeling anger, hate, pain, and sadness the more she watched Hinata interact with them, seeing how the 3 academy students looked up to her. With these feelings only growing the more she watched, despite Hanabi's best efforts to push them back down and ignore them, before the Hyuga heiress couldn't take it anymore and stormed out of her hiding spot. "You're the worst sister anyone could ever have," Hanabi screamed, glaring at the group, making them look up at her in surprise, with Hinata being the most surprised to see her sister. "Hanab," said Hinata, not expecting to see Hanabi here, only for the brunette to cut her off. "First you leave and now you're finding replacements for me. You're the worst. I hate you. I hate you for not being stronger. I hate you for making me become the heiress. I hate you for leaving. I hate that you're replacing me now. I hate you for being a terrible sister. I wish I never even had a sister if I knew you were like this," shouted Hanabi, glaring at the brunette, while Hinata looked shocked and hurt at her outburst before frowning at her sister. "Hanabi, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, but that's no excuse to act like this. Especially since I never intended to replace you. We could have still spent time together. I even wanted to still spend time together like we used to, but you didn't want to. Nor have I ever once made you do something that you didn't want to," Hinata said, with Hanabi still glaring at her. "But you made me become heiress. That's something I didn't want. You were supposed to be stronger, but you weren't. I still beat you. Now I have a destiny I never wanted," Hanabi retorted. "You won because I refused to hurt you. I could have won our match, but I chose not to. But that doesn't mean you still aren't skilled and powerful yourself, Hanabi. I wasn't going to hurt someone I care about, especially over something like remaining heiress," said Hinata, making the brunette grit her teeth. "Then that just makes you a coward if you aren't willing to fight for something. Or that you'd hesitate to strike just because you care about your opponent." "I didn't hesitate," Hanabi yelled, with Hinata nodding in agreement. "No, you didn't, and maybe that does make you strong. Maybe I am a coward for not wanting to hurt someone I care about. But if that's the case, then so be it. I couldn't be what the rest of the Hyuga clan wanted me as, someone who'd do anything for the good of the clan, and I'm fine with that, since it would have meant I'd stop caring about anyone or anything but the clan. But that doesn't mean I don't fight for something. I fight to protect those I care about. That's something I'll never hesitate in doing. That still includes you, Hanabi. Even if you do hate me, I'd still want to keep you safe," said Hinata. "That didn't stop you from leaving. You say you'll keep me safe, but you still left me alone. You never came back to see me. You didn't even see me when you left. Now you're a liar and a coward," said Hanabi, glaring at her sister. "I couldn't come to see you, Hanabi. It only would have caused more problems, given how I am banished from the Hyuga clan. And nothing was stopping you from coming to see me, like you're doing now. I would have loved the chance to see you again, but it was your choice not to come meet me sooner," Hinata replied, with Hanabi scowling in anger while her eyes darted around before settling on the brunette. "Then I'll force you to come back. Once I'm clan head, you'll have to do what I say. That includes coming back to the compound. I'll make it so you can't leave ever again and do whatever I say," Hanabi retorted, knowing then she'd never lose her sister again if she made her come back. "You can't do that, Hanabi. Even if by some chance the council agreed to let me return, it'd only cause problems for you and me," stated Hinata. "I don't care," said Hanabi, only for Hinata to cut her off. "Hanabi, stop. Now," Hinata said sternly, making the young brunette stop and look at her in surprise. "I am sorry if I made you feel like I abandoned or replaced you. It was never my intentions, but I couldn't stay with the Hyuga clan anymore. It was clear after I lost against you that I wasn't welcome. Both the main family and branch family saw me as a failure, with the latter also hating me for being part of the main family as well, despite my attempts to be kind to them. Leaving was the only option left, and I'm glad that I took it to finally have my own freedom without worry of being judged for my personality or kindness. But that doesn't mean I stopped caring about you, Hanabi. You're still my little sister. Nor does it mean I'm going to deal with you acting like a child that got their favorite toy taken away. You chose to cut me out of your life. You chose not to come see me when I left. And you chose to come here now and confront me. I may have left, but you also need to accept the fact you had a role to play in that as well," said Hinata, with Hanabi looking at her with wide eyes before quickly shaking her head and glaring at her. "Fine then, leave and keep your loser friends and your new siblings. I'm fine if I never have to see you again, even better if I forget you ever existed. I don't want you to come back ever or think of you as my sister, Hanabi said, while Hinata looked at her neutrally before nodding. If that's what you want, Hanabi, Hinata said, making the heiress falter slightly at her acceptance. It is. Good riddance, Hanabi said before turning to leave, while hoping that will finally make the pain go away. Hey, Kanoka shouted, getting up and running over to Hanabi, making the Hyuga heiress stop and look at her coldly. What do you want? Said Hanabi, not interested in anything her replacement has to say, while the Sarutobi glared at her. Apologize to Hinata Nichin and to us too, right now, said Kanoka, with Hanabi scoffing at this. Why should I waste my time on such nonsense? Or even keep wasting my time talking to you? Hanabi retorted as she went to leave again. Then you're the real coward, said Kanoka, making Hanabi stop and slowly turn towards her. What did you just call me? Hanabi demanded, angry that she'd even dare call her a coward. That you're the real coward. Hinata Nichin did nothing wrong to you. She even still cares about you enough to willingly never see you again just because it's what you want. But you still hate her just for wanting to be happy. You're not just a coward, you're selfish too. You don't care about what she wants, only what you want. But I'm not going to let you talk to her that way, so apologize, Kanoka said, glaring at the Hyuga. Why don't you try and make me, loser, retorted Hanabi. Fine, best 2 out of 3, when I win you'll apologize. Not that it'll take me longer than 1 round to beat you, said Kanoka, with Hanabi scoffing that she's actually challenging her, while Hinata looked at Kanoka in worry. Kanoka, you really don't have to do this, Hinata said, given her sister's been training for years and is the prodigy of the main family. No, if your new sister wants to lose so badly, then I'll fight her. I could use a nice warm-up before getting back to my actual training, said Hanabi, glaring at both of them, now eager for the chance to knock Kanoka down if it meant hurting Hinata just a little. You're the only one who'll lose, Kanoka retorted before getting into a stance, Hanabi getting into the Juken stance as well. You're not even worth using my Byakugan on, Hanabi stated with a smirk, intending to end this quickly. Scowling at her words, Kanoka charged at Hanabi with her fist pulled back, making Hanabi scoff at her plan to attack. With the Sarutobi soon closing the distance between them and threw her fist at Hanabi's head, only for Hanabi to deflect the punch before thrusting her hand at Kanoka's stomach to take her out. Though Hanabi was a little surprised when Kanoka managed to sidestep her palm strike before grabbing her wrist and throwing her forward, making the Hyuga almost lose her momentum, only to be surprised herself when Hanabi managed to catch herself from falling to the ground, with the Hyuga then quickly turning around deflecting another punch Kanoka threw at the back of her head. Before Hanabi gave another palm strike, this time succeeding in striking Kanoka's abdomen, making the other brunette gasp at the hit, with the heiress then quickly delivering a sweeping kick, knocking Kanoka's legs out from under her, giving another palm strike that knocked her to the ground, where Hanabi pinned her with a foot on her chest. Have you been humiliated enough, or do you want to be further embarrassed? Hanabi asked tauntingly, with Kanoka scowling at her before suddenly smirking. Are you ready to be embarrassed? Retorted Kanoka before quickly grabbing Hanabi by her ankle and throwing her off, surprising the Hyuga heiress. Not expecting to be grabbed or thrown back like that, Hanabi stumbled to try and maintain her balance, giving Kanoka time to get up and charge her, before the Sarutobi jumped up and slammed her foot into Hanabi's face, sending the Hyuga crashing to the ground. Then before Hanabi could try getting back up, Kanoka straddled her waist and held her arms down. Looks like it's my win now, said Kanoka tauntingly, making Hanabi glare at her. We didn't start the second round. This is cheating, retorted Hanabi, believing she's now won by default. Nope, I said best 2 out of 3. I never said it'd be matches specifically, just that you had to win 2 times. And besides, we're supposed to be ninja. That means cheating is just another tool we use to win, which I've now done, Kanoka said with a smirking before getting off the other brunette, while Hanabi looked at her with wide eyes. But fine, if you want it to be fair, then this will decide the winner either way, added Kanoka, while Hanabi got up and glared at her before getting into her stance again. I'm gonna enjoy seeing you eat dirt, loser, Hanabi said, swearing to make this as humiliating as possible. That's my line, Kanoka retorted before charging Hanabi again, with Hanabi rushing towards Kanoka as well, refusing to fall for any more tricks that she may have. The heiress ducking under a punch from Konoka, while Konoka quickly moved back when Hanabi delivered a palm thrust at her chest, before dropping to the ground in a crouch when the other brunette got in close to her. The Sarutobi then kicking her leg out towards Hanabi to knock her off balance, only to be surprised when Hanabi spun around her kick and got behind her, crying out when Hanabi struck her in the back, with Konoka then rolling to the side, managing to avoid another strike from Hanabi before jumping at the Hyuga to tackle her to the ground, only for Hanabi to bend backwards, with Konoka flying right over her. The Sarutobi crying out when Hanabi gave a painful palm strike to her chest, knocking her out of the air where she crashed into the ground. Before Konoka could try and get up, Hanabi was on top of her with her hand pulled back to strike her again. Just like I thought, this was a waste of my time, Hanabi stated before getting up and turns to leave the training ground, with no one stopping her this time, pleasing the Hyuga heiress. Hopefully now these feelings will go away, Hanabi thought, hoping her pain and sadness will go away finally, now that she's confronted Hinata, while doing her best to ignore the humbling feeling she now felt, after confronting Hinata and the fact Konoka actually managed to get a win over her. I lost, I tried my best, but still lost, Konoka muttered sitting up while looking down, feeling upset, hurt, and sad that despite trying her best to win she still lost. I'm sorry Aniki, Satsuki Nichin, Hinata Nichin, I failed, thought Konoka as she pulled her knees to her chest, feeling ready to cry. Believing that she let Naruto, Satsuki, and Hinata down by losing, even after they started helping her train, while feeling even worse that she'd been fighting for Hinata, but still couldn't win in the end before the girl yelped at suddenly being flicked on the forehead, making her look up to see Naruto and Hinata smiling at her. You did pretty good, Konoka, especially when you got your win and acted like a real ninja, Naruto stated, with Hinata nodding in agreement, making Konoka look at them with wide eyes. Boo, but I lost, I let you down, Konoka said, only for them to shake their heads. You didn't let us down, Konoka. Hanabi has been training a lot longer than you have, and much more intensely. While you have improved a lot since we started training you, Hanabi just had more training. But that doesn't mean you failed, you may have lost the fight. You still tried your best and even managed to beat her once. Be proud since it shows how far you've come in your training, said Hinata, smiling at the brunette, with Satsuki nodding in agreement as she went over to Konoka. They're right. No one's expecting you to be able to win every battle or defeat every opponent. There are going to be times you'll lose and get knocked down, but don't see them as failures, see them as opportunities to get up and try again and again. What's important is that you keep trying and never give up. That's when you'll really lose. So, don't see this as losing, just a chance to try again and train even harder so that next time you will win, Satsuki said, patting Konoka on the shoulder, before Mogi and Udon ran over to them. Konoka, you were amazing, being able to stand up to the Hyuga heiress of all people, even managing to beat her once. You really are strong, Mogi said, smiling at her friend, with Udon nodding in agreement. Yeah, that was great. I don't think anyone else in the academy would have stood up to her like that, or come close to beating her like you did, added Udon with a smile of his own, with Konoka looked at them all in surprise before smiling brightly as she got up. Yeah, I am awesome. I wasn't going to let her talk about any of us like that, or insult Hinata Nichin, and maybe she won, but that just means I'll have to train even harder, so that next time, she'll be the one landing on her ass and me standing over her, Konoka said, determined to train even harder and grow stronger, so that she'll be the one knocking Hanabi down next time. Only to yelp when Hinata hit her on the head, ruining the brunette's moment. You can train as hard as you want, but don't think you'll be able to use such language at all, no matter how old you are, said Hinata sternly, refusing to have Konoka talk like that, with the sight making the others laugh good-naturedly, while Konoka groaned at being reprimanded and her moment being ruined. Time skip 3 days. Naruto and Yugao walked through the gates to make their way towards Takimi village, after packing up everything they'll need for the trip and say their goodbyes to everyone, with the perplete looking at her student curiously. So, I've heard you've worked out a design for your new sword, along with some abilities you'd want it to have, Yugao stated, with Naruto nodding in agreement as he pulled out the notebook with his sword's design and handed it to her. Yeah, I just finished the design yesterday, after getting all the details worked out. And I'm hoping that we'll find someone in Takimi village who can make it exactly as it is," said Naruto, with Yugao opening the book and looked over the designs, her eyes widening at everything there was. "Well, I'll say that if we can find someone who can make this, it'll certainly be one of a kind. It could even rival the abilities of the 7 swords of the mists," said Yugao, impressed at what Naruto's come up with. "Are you also planning to give it a name?" Yugao asked, with the Uzumaki nodding in response. "Yeah, I even already have one picked out and thought it was pretty fitting," Naruto said with a smirk, making Yugao look at him in interest before looking back at the scroll to see if he wrote it down, soon finding what she guessed was the name of the sword. Zan-Jetsu. Naruto sat in a meditative position while spreading out his senses, feeling and sensing everything around him. Being able to sense Yugao nearby while she was preparing breakfast, being able to see her chakra as she moved, even being able to sense animals moving throughout the forest, birds that were flying close by, watching them move and fly around. "Naruto, breakfast is ready," Yugao said, pulling Naruto out of his meditation before he got up and went over to the fire, grabbing the plate Yugao held out for him. "Thanks, Yugao-sensei," said Naruto, sitting down as they began eating, while the purplet nodded in response. "No problem. You've learned the sensing technique fairly quickly. But how are you with the flying swallow?" Yugao asked, wanting to know how he's doing with the training they've been doing the past few days. Since they weren't exactly in a hurry to reach Takimi village, the two had taken the time to get some training done during the trip. With the Anbu teaching Naruto her sensing technique to better sense and track a person's chakra signature, and the flying swallow allowing him to channel chakra into his weapon, increasing its length and sharpness, along with even being able to adjust the length of the chakra blade that forms around the physical one, making it as long or as short as the user wants, with Yugao also helping him with his kenjutsu and overall abilities as well, along with teaching him some new chakra control exercises. "I've gotten better at the flying swallow. The chakra control exercises also helping to better shape my chakra around my weapons. They've also been a lot of help in recreating the sonic howl and chakra claws, with the flying swallow especially helping with the latter," replied Naruto, pleased at how he's getting closer to recreating the 2 attacks. The whiskered ravenet having also noticed how the flying swallow was similar to the chakra claws, creating solid chakra constructs around a weapon, while the chakra claws does the same, as well as being able to launch them at a target, leading to him also noticing the similarities they both had to his beast wave gale palm and the beast tearing palm, especially with the latter, making it so he just had to deconstruct those jutsu and how they're performed to further help in recreating the chakra claws. So between the chakra claws and sonic howl, Naruto's made the most progress with the chakra claws. "That's good. They seem like incredibly versatile attacks to have, and once you've managed to recreate them, you'll be able to further improve and make your own versions," Yugao said with a nod, having seen how Naruto seemed to have a talent with shape transformation. Something that's not only good at further helping his chakra control, but can be very versatile in shaping your chakra into anything you want, giving you a wide range of attacks and jutsu to use, which only become more powerful when nature transformation is applied. "That's what I'm hoping to do, once I've recreated and mastered them. After that, it'd be adding my wind affinity to them," said Naruto, intending to improve the sonic howl and chakra claws by adding his wind affinity to them. His words making the purplet proud and amazed at her student's determination and desire to keep improving himself, knowing it'll help him a lot to keep improving and grow as a shinobi. "Just don't try overworking yourself by training in too many things. Even with shadow clones, you could end up pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion, which will only do more harm than good for you," said Yugao, the Uzumaki nodding in response before he looked at her curiously. "Yugao-sensei, who taught you kenjutsu?" Naruto asked, interested to learn who taught her kenjutsu, with Yugao pausing slightly at the question before answering. "Hayate-kun was appointed to teach me kenjutsu due to the talent I showed in it, and he's one of the best kenjutsu users in Konoha," Yugao replied. "Was there anyone before Hayate-sensei that trained you?" said Naruto. Given how Hayate was only a year older than Yugao, the Uzumaki doubted he trained her in kenjutsu from the beginning. "I did have another instructor. They started teaching me kenjutsu after seeing I had a natural talent for it," along with helping me perfect my sensing abilities and teaching me the sensing techniques I use. It was their training that helped me get selected to join Anbu at a young age. They were actually considered the best Kenjutsu user in the village, being much stronger than me and Hayat-kun together. Though they were also very intense when it came to training, but it certainly paid off in the end, said Yugao with a small smile, with Naruto's curiosity growing at who her other instructor. Are they still in the village? Naruto asked, causing the perplexed smile to fall and shake her head. No, they aren't. They're dead, actually, Yugao revealed, making the Uzumaki wince. Oh sorry, said Naruto, with Yugao waving it off. It's fine, you had no way of knowing. While I miss them, they died protecting someone they loved, and that's something they would glad give their life to do, replied Yugao, Naruto looking at her at this. Did you spend time with them outside of training? Questioned Naruto, Yugao nodding in response. I did. In fact, we probably spent more time together outside of training than we did training. Like I said, they were pretty intense in training and didn't hold back much, but outside of training, they were a different kind of intense, being pretty hyperactive, impulsive, and stubborn, but still being level-headed and cheerful, along with being pretty sassy. Though they were also kind and caring to those close to them, always willing to do anything they could to help those they cared about. While for those that got on their bad side, it usually didn't end too well, since one thing that they were well known for was their temper. If you made them angry, the safer choice was usually to just take whatever beating they gave, since running only made them angrier. They were someone you had to meet for yourself to see how amazing they were, and I'm happy for the chance to have met and be trained by them, Yugao explained with a smile, while Naruto tried imagining a person like that. Huh, you know it's funny, I feel like a lot of what you just said could apply to me, Naruto stated, noticing that most of what she just said could be said about how he was before merging with Zen-Aku, and even then a lot of that stuff could still apply. I know, you actually remind me a lot about them too, replied Yugao, smiling at her student, seeing a lot of her first instructor in him. I'll take that as a compliment. Though, if you don't mind me asking, what was their name? Asked Naruto, interested to know her instructor's name. With his question making Yugao pause again, biting her lip as she's unsure if she should tell him their name, given how it could potentially cause some problems. But if she didn't tell him, then it's likely he'd grow suspicious and start searching himself, which would definitely lead to major problems. Kushina, her name was Kushina, Yugao revealed after a few moments, figuring just telling him would be the safer option, while Naruto frowned slightly at the name. Kushina. She really does sound like an amazing person, Naruto muttered, unable to help but feel a pang inside him at the name, as if it should mean something to him. Yeah, she was. And would have been an even better mother, said Yugao, adding the last part mentally while glancing at her student. She was fully aware of who Naruto's parents are, having been trained by Kushina and learning she was married to the Yandame Hokage. It's why the perplet had jumped at the chance to help train him in Kenjutsu when Kakashi asked, wanting the chance to help train her teacher's son, as well as the chance to get to know him, given the Sandame's choice to keep him ignorant of his heritage and safe from his parents' enemies. Though she did what she could as one of his Anbu guards growing up, keeping him safe from anyone that wanted to try hurting him or those like Danzo that'd want to use him. Yugao also knew she'll likely get in trouble for telling Naruto about Kushina, should the Hokage ever find out, even if she didn't directly tell him she's his mother. But she also believed he at least deserved to know what she was like and know her name to feel some connection to her. Thanks, Yugao-sensei, for telling me about your first instructor, Naruto replied, the perplet nodding in response and smiling at him. No problem, and if you ever want to hear more about Kushina-sensei, then don't hesitate to ask, Yugao said, wanting to tell him all about his mother as much as she could. The two continued talking about different things before they eventually finishing their breakfast and began packing up camp to continue on towards Takimi village. Time skip one day. When you said Takimi village didn't like ninja, I think you downplayed how much, Naruto said quietly to Yugao as they walked through Takimi village, with the villagers not even bothering to hide their dislike, even hatred, and cold attitude of the two ninja being here. I've only heard about their dislike of ninja, but seeing it firsthand, it's honestly a miracle they let us inside, replied Yugao, glancing around the village, her instincts telling her to have her sword drawn and ready for an attack, making the two wonder if maybe they should have tried the idea Naruto had suggested before they'd arrived. Flashback. Yugao-sensei, since Takimi village doesn't really like or trust ninja, do you think we should take off our forehead protectors? Naruto asked as they were getting closer to Takimi village, hoping they'd be able to find a blacksmith that'd be willing to do business with them. Before the whiskered Ravenet thought of something that may be able to make their time in Takimi village easier, with Yugao looking at him with a frown, since while the idea had some merit and would help their trip, it'd also cause them more problems than they needed. Taking off and hiding our forehead protectors would make things easier in the short term, but it'd also likely make things difficult for us and Konoha as a whole in the long term. Keep in mind that everyone in Takimi village hates ninja and the hidden villages they come from, especially ones from the 5 great nations. Ask yourself, how do you think they'll react when, not if, they learn we essentially tricked them into helping us? Replied Yugao looking at her student, making Naruto pause and think about it, before sighing in realization at what could happen. The best case scenario being they just demand Zan-Jetsu back and compensation for being tricked. The worst case being they put a hit out on both of them and just take Zan-Jetsu back. Yeah, it'd be a bad idea, Naruto stated, with Yugao nodding in response before patting him the shoulder. Don't worry, I'm sure there'll be at least one blacksmith willing to do business with us, assured Yugao as they continued on their way. End flashback. The Anbu honestly wished she could go back and kick herself, given how so far they've yet to find a single blacksmith that'd agree to make Naruto's sword. Every shop they've gone to so far has either declined accepting the commission or even just bluntly told them to get out and not come back, making them realize the hatred Takimi village had for ninja was much worse than they originally thought. Come on, let's take a break before we keep searching, Yugao said with a sigh before they found a place to sit down, pulling out some containers of dango they'd managed to purchase from a restaurant. Though rather than start eating, Naruto and Yugao began checking and testing each dango stick they had, wanting to make sure they weren't tampered with. Are yours fine, Naruto? Yugao asked looking at her student, who nodded after a few moments. They look fine and I don't smell anything wrong with them. What about yours, Yugao-sensei? Questioned Naruto, the perplexed soon nodding as well. Seems like they weren't poisoned, so that's good at least, stated Yugao, while relieved that Anko wasn't here with them, knowing she'd likely go on a rampage and kill anyone that tampered with her favorite food. Before the two began eating, knowing it's a miracle they've even managed to buy dango, given the restaurant they went to looked ready to deny them service or simply throw them out, or even try to poison them, leading to both ninja checking to make sure they didn't actually go through with the latter, having also gotten similar trouble at the inn they'd checked into for the duration of their time here, looking ready to kick them out the moment they entered. Is there any other place at all we could try visiting that'd be able to make my sword? Naruto asked, highly doubting they'll find anyone willing to help them here. And even if they did, he felt that despite their pride in the weapons they make, it wouldn't really mean anything if he can't find someone willing to make Zan-Jetsu for him. Honestly, there isn't any other place that isn't allied with another hidden village, at least not in the elemental nations to my knowledge. The only other option we'd really have would be trying to find a place outside of the Shinobi continent. But I doubt the Hawkage would approve a trip like that for just a sword to be made, replied Yugao, making the Uzumaki sigh in annoyance, but nod. You also get the feeling like we've been followed since entering the village, Naruto said lowly, with the perplexed giving a barely noticeable nod. Yeah, it's hard to tell since the few ninja that this place has don't have a lot of chakra, but it does feel like someone's been watching us, Yugao said, before the two subtly checked their surroundings and spread out their senses to see if anyone was watching them, only to frown when they didn't see any sign of anyone watching them, either from the ground or from the roofs, nor sensing any chakra signatures indicating they were being followed by anyone, either. I swear it'd be easier and simpler if someone would just try something already, muttered Naruto, honestly wishing someone would try something stupid, with Yugao unable to help but nod in agreement with her student. The two being unaware that they were being watched by a few Takimi ninja, having taken notice of Naruto's large chakra reserves. Even without actively sensing the kid's chakra, they could tell he had more chakra than anyone else they've seen. Hoki will want to know about this, one of the ninja said with a smirk, one the other shared as they left to go inform the 4 celestial symbols men, knowing that they'll be able to go ahead with the ritual much sooner than they expected. Later. Just a few more shops to check, then we'll likely be leaving. Sorry if this turns out to be a wasted trip, Naruto, Yugao said as they walked through Takimi village, having finished their lunch and continued searching for a blacksmith to make the Uzumaki's sword. Only for the number of shops they could visit growing smaller and smaller with each refusal they got, knowing soon there won't be any other options they could try. It's fine, sensei, at least we were able to get some training done, and who knows, maybe there'll be a mission to another continent we could take, then I'll definitely get a one-of-a-kind sword, replied Naruto with a smirk, making the perplet laugh slightly. Knowing your luck, that's honestly a real possibility, stated Yugao, having seen how Naruto can have either the best or worst luck in the world. Though the two stopped when Naruto bumped into an extremely elderly man, making the whiskered Ravenet drop his notebook. He was a scranky old man with tan skin, and huge eyes with pinpoint pupils that looked to be permanently wide open, balding on the top of his head with what remains of his gray hair tied in a topknot, a thin goatee at the end of his chin that looked scorched, as well as a mustache that is, seemingly, shaved in the middle. He was wearing a green hori with black horizontal strikes on it, with matching hakama, and was barefoot. Sorry about that, sir. I didn't watch where I was going, Naruto said quickly, not wanting to end up being accused of assaulting an old man, only to see the elder pick up his notebook. No problem there, youngster. Accidents happen, replied the old man as he began flipping through the notebook, looking over the designs and ideas Naruto had for Zen-Jetsu. This is a mighty fine blade you've designed, unlike any I've seen before, and I've seen quite a few in my time. I take it you came here hoping to have it commissioned, the old man said, with Naruto nodding slowly in response. Yes, that's what we were hoping for. But so far, every blacksmith we've visited has either refused to take the job or just told us to get out, said Naruto, with the old man humming in thought. Not surprising. Everyone here hates ninja and would sooner fall on their own weapons before choosing to make one for any ninja again. Luckily for you, I'm not like everyone else here. If you need a blacksmith, then you found one of the best in the world, said the old man, surprising Naruto and Yugao. Wait, you're a blacksmith? Yugao asked, not expecting this elderly man to be a blacksmith. Of course I am. I've made some of the finest blades you could ever hope to see, ones that could even make those fancy swords in Kiri look like children's toys in comparison, the old man said, surprising the ninja further. Okay, if you're really willing to accept the job, that'd be great. I'm Naruto Uzumaki and this my sensei, Yugao Yuzuki. Introduced Naruto as the old man seemed to have taken a particular interest in learning what his last name was. It's nice to meet you, sir, Yugao said as they held out their hands, which the old man shook. You too as well. I am Tasai Uzumaki, Tasai replied, which really shocked Naruto and Yugao. Why you're an Uzumaki? Naruto asked in shock and disbelief that he's actually meeting another Uzumaki, with Yugao sharing his shock given how few Uzumaki were left in the world, while also taking note that Naruto seemed to already be in the know about his clan. Yes, I am. We can talk more at my hut if you two are interested in joining me, offered Tasai, Naruto and Yugao nodding in response. Yes, that'd be fine, Tasai. Where do you live, exactly? Yugao asked as they began following the elderly Uzumaki. Outside the village, since I'm sure you've seen that everyone here don't like ninja. Well, not all the blacksmiths are like that. There are a few who don't hold any ill will towards ninja, even a few that have ninja-affiliated ancestry like myself. But that dislike everyone here has spreads to those few as well, as they're essentially banished from the village and forced to live outside it, only being allowed in on rare occasions. You two are lucky that this was one my rare, allowed, visits, Tasai replied, making the Ravenet and Perplet frown at hearing, not believing they'd actually banish blacksmiths for not hating ninja or those with ninja-affiliated ancestry, just out of spite and hatred for ninja as whole. With Naruto and Yugao shaking their heads at how stubborn and short-sighted the people here were, to the point where it almost felt like they've never left Konoha in Naruto's case, before following Tasai out of the village. Later. It didn't take long before they arrived at Tasai's hut, with Naruto and Yugao being surprised again to see that rather than a building, it looked to be the skull of some giant creature. They also saw an open side area built next to the skull, which they could see had Tasai's forge built inside of it. "You live here? What was it?" Naruto asked, not expecting him to live in a giant creature's skull. "Yep, founded not long after settling down in Takimi and then being banished. As for what it was, no idea, but it's a good place for forging. No wood that would catch on fire or stones that'll make everything too hot. It's also really good at keeping away any brats. That and Momo helps. Speaking of Momo, come here, we have visitors," Tasai shouted, before the two ninja were once again shocked when a large brown ox appeared. What was shocking was the fact the ox had 3 eyes, with 2 regular eyes and then a third one on its forehead. Is that a yakai?" Yugao said in shock and disbelief, not knowing what else the ox could be. "That's right, this here is Momo. He's my companion whenever I need to leave the village," replied Tasai, patting Momo on the head, while Naruto and Yugao shook off their shock as they all headed inside his hut, finding it to be much bigger on the inside than the outside. "Oh, okay, so, about you making my sword, how much will it cost?" Naruto asked once they were inside and sitting down, with Tasai looking over the designs of Zan-Jetsu. For a sword like this, it'd definitely cost a lot, likely more than you'd be able to afford. But for my services, it won't be much, though in exchange for the lowered price, I want you to become my protege," Tasai said while looking at Naruto, with neither of them expecting this. "You want Naruto to be your protege as payment?" Yugao asked with a raised brow, given how they'd be getting his sword made at a discounted price and Naruto would be learning how to make weapons, something that'd also give him a more intimate understanding of Zan-Jetsu and how it works. "Yes, the Uzumaki clan may be known for our longevity, and I've certainly lived much longer than most, even some of my fellow clan members in terms of longevity, but I'm not immortal and I'm getting old. I've been looking for a successor to pass my teachings on to, but haven't found anyone deserving to learn them, until you that is. After all, who better to pass my teachings on to than another Uzumaki?" Tasai replied, much to their shock and gratitude, with Naruto nodding in agreement. "Then I accept. I'll become your protege and learn everything you have to teach," said Naruto, bowing his head. "Great. Then we can get started on teaching you the basics. Come with me," said Tasai as he got up and motioned for Naruto to follow him outside, with Naruto doing so. "But the first thing is, since you're from Konoha and can most likely know shadow clone jutsu that Brat Tabarama created, you should know that you won't be using that. Blacksmithing is best learned and used with your own 2 hands, not through memories given to you by clones. You want to use clones, then wait until we get to the Fianjutsu part of the lessons, otherwise you'll be doing all the work yourself," Tasai said, wanting Naruto to get the experience in blacksmithing with his own hands, rather than using clones to speed things up. Especially given how difficult and dangerous the process can be, not wanting a clone to accidentally dispel from getting hurt due to inexperience, which could lead to something being damaged or broken, requiring it to be fixed or replaced, or, even worse, a fire being started. All of which Tasai would prefer didn't happen while Naruto was learning. Even more so, since he'll be teaching the younger Uzumaki the fire-style ninjutsu he uses for forging as well. "Okay, I can do that. Are we also going to be gathering the materials we need to forge my sword, too?" Naruto asked as they entered the forge area, with Tasai beginning to search through several boxes of materials. "Perhaps some of them, but I already have the main material for it right here. A fragments of my greatest masterpiece, back when its second wielder had broken it against a powerful yakai, while the blade had ultimately been restored and is now in the possession of his elder niece. I did keep some fragments of it as a potential forging material when I was repairing it, and with the sword you want made, it'll be perfect," Tasai said before pulling out a long case and set it down before opening it up. With Naruto looking amazed at seeing what looked to be a fragment of what was once a very large sword, being able to tell just from looking at the fragment, it was definitely a masterpiece. "Now then, let's get started," Tasai said, Naruto nodding in agreement as they got started. "Hinata, if you're uncomfortable just say something and I'll stop," said Satsuki while she was washing the brunette's back. With the Uchiha and Hyuga currently in the bathroom as Hinata sat on a stool under the showerhead with Satsuki kneeling behind her, much to the former's embarrassment that they're both naked and so close to each other. "No, you're fine, Satsuki. I'm just still getting used to this," Hinata replied, still getting used to Satsuki's lack of shame and disregard for nudity taboos. Having been completely shocked, embarrassed, and mortified when she first moved in with Satsuki and saw the Uchiha would casually change or undress in front of her, along with even walking in while Hinata was changing herself, acting like nothing was wrong. Though Hinata quickly learned that Satsuki really didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Even when the Bluenet tried explaining it, the Uchiha simply brushed it off. Thankfully, Hinata was slowly started getting used to it, becoming less embarrassed whenever Satsuki would undress in front of her or walk in on her while she's changing. But that didn't mean she still didn't get embarrassed, especially with how Satsuki walked in on her earlier. *flashback*. Hinata sighed contently as she stood in the shower after stripping off her clothes, enjoying the feeling of the hot water running along her body after a long day of training and working at the hospital, wanting to first get her body wet before filling up the bath. Before her thoughts turned to the training she and Satsuki have gotten done, both in their regular training and learning medical ninjutsu, with the Ravenet having been able to improve her chakra control enough to start practicing it along with her, much to Hinata's enjoyment that they could practice together, while also helping Satsuki along due to being able to start earlier than her. Outside of their medical ninjutsu training, they'd also resumed their regular training under Kakashi and Yamato after resting for a few days after their mission, having worked on further mastering the ninjutsu they knew, along with improving their taijutsu. The Hyuga continued working on incorporating her elemental affinities into her juken, as well as increasing the ranger her Byakugan can see, while Satsuki worked on learning the Nitoryu style for her swords, as well as improving her aim with their bow form. Along with the ninjutsu and genjutsu she found in her clan's library, wanting to incorporate them into her fighting style and see if they could be improved on. "I think Satsuki might be close to unlocking her Sharingan," Hinata thought, given that to help improve her aim Satsuki had moving and swinging targets set up, with her getting better and better at hitting them each time. "Do you want me to wash your back?" "Eep," Hinata squeaked as she was pulled from her thoughts at hearing Satsuki's voice, before blushing in embarrassment and mortification when she saw the Uchiha standing in the bathroom. Satsuki? What are you doing?" said Hinata while quickly covering her melons and crotch as Satsuki remained unfazed as she began undressing. "I just got back from some last-minute training and heard the water running, so I figured we could save time by just bathing together and helping wash each other," Satsuki replied, taking her shirt off along with her bra, much to Hinata's growing embarrassment. Me and Satsuki bathing together, naked, touching, Hinata thought, feeling her entire face was likely glowing red by now, not helped as Satsuki removed her skirt and spandex shorts. "Well, do you want me to wash your back?" Satsuki asked while removing her panties, leaving the Ravenet completely naked as she stepped into the shower, sighing at the feeling of the water hitting her body. "Oh, okay," Hinata stuttered while nodding numbly, lost at what else to say or do, but agreed. End flashback. After they'd both gotten their bodies wet from the shower, they begun lathering their bodies before the Bluenet's embarrassment returned when Satsuki moved behind her and began washing her back with a washcloth, though Hinata couldn't deny that part of her actually liked how the Uchiha's hands were moving along her body. "Eep," Hinata squeaked when Satsuki suddenly pulled her up to her feet, before grabbing her leg and lifting it into the air, making Hinata stumble slightly and place her hands on the wall. Satsuki," said Hinata, her embarrassment growing again as Satsuki began rubbing and washing her leg. "Just wanting to help you get clean as much as I can, Hinata," Satsuki said, with Hinata biting her lip when Satsuki's hands moved up her thigh, going dangerously close to her crotch. That's fine. I cock and wash the rest," said Hinata, only to gasp when Satsuki's hands moved from her leg to her stomach, rubbing and lathering it. But Satsuki didn't stop there as she stood behind Hinata and grabbed both of her melons, squeezing them as she lathered them as well, only for the Ravenet's eye to twitch as she felt how big Hinata's melons were, making them seem even bigger than when she's just seen them. "Why are they so big?" thought Satsuki, groping Hinata's melons jealously. hating how big they were compared to her own. Hinata couldn't stop herself from moaning as Satsuki groped-lathered her melons, not believing what her friend teammate was doing. Satsuki, please stop, Hinata said, only to moan again when Satsuki's hands moved over her nipples, giving her melons another squeeze. Why are your melons so big? Satsuki said, wanting to know how Hinata's melons could be nearly D cups compared to her own. What moaned Hinata as the Uchiha pushed her melons together. Tell me how you got your melons so big. Is it anything you eat? Training? What is it? Said Satsuki, while Hinata started feeling light-headed from her melons being played with and Satsuki's words. Just good genes, that's what my Kasan told me. Hinata stuttered, remembering her mother told her before she died that Hyuga women are naturally gifted in certain areas. Originally thinking that just meant they were really strong, but Hinata soon realized that it meant they were early bloomers. After seeing some of the other female Hyuga before in the hot spring and accidentally walking in on a few in states of undress, seeing how developed they all were. Satsuki couldn't help but grumble in annoyance while continuing to grope and lather Hinata's melons, showing no signs of stopping, much to her embarrassment. Later. So, sorry about getting carried away like that, Satsuki said as she and Hinata now sat together in the bathtub, having finishing cleaning themselves up, and now were simply relaxing and soaking in the water. With the ravenet having eventually stopped groping her friend's chest, snapping out of her jealously over Hinata's more developed figure, much to Hinata's relief and slight disappointment, before they finished washing each other's bodies. It's fine, and no harm done, replied Hinata while smiling at Satsuki, which she returned before the Uchiha then frowned. What do you think is taking Naruto and Yugao-sensei so long? Questioned Satsuki, causing Hinata to frown as well in worry. I don't really know. They should have been back a while ago, but now, Hinata said. It's been over 3 weeks, nearly 4, since they left. It shouldn't have taken them this long, Satsuki stated, wondering why it's taking them so long to return. Yeah, but maybe they've been having trouble finding a blacksmith to make the sword since Takimi village doesn't really like ninja, so they could be having trouble finding someone who'll make it. Or it's just taking longer than expected to make the sword, said Hinata. Satsuki nodded in agreement since that's possibly what's keeping them for so long. Probably. I just really miss him. While there have been times where we haven't hung out much, we could still go see each other if we wanted. Now, I can't deny I'm actually worried that something might have happened and we'd have no way of knowing, said Satsuki while pulling her legs up to her chest, not wanting to imagine losing anyone else she cared about while being unable to do anything about it. I know. I'm worried too that I've finally been able to spend time with Naruto-kun now, but that something could happen to him before Hinata said before stopping herself, only for Satsuki to look at her. Before you can tell him you love him? Said Satsuki, causing the brunette to blush and look away. Is so sorry, said Hinata, knowing that Satsuki also had feelings for Naruto and didn't want to do anything to risk their friendship by revealing she liked him, too. Why are you sorry? I'm not angry since I understand why you love him. I love Naruto too. He's kind, caring, would do anything for the people close to him, never gives up on anything, and he has a way of helping people when they need it the most, Satsuki said while smiling as she thought over everything that made her fall for Naruto, making Hinata smile as well. Why, yeah, he's really special, said Hinata before she blushed brightly at Satsuki's next words. It also helps that before he was already good-looking with his unique features, with an added cute factor from his whisker marks. Now though he looks really hot dressed in black and having a feral look that makes you feel hot yourself, right? Stated Satsuki with a suggestive smirk as the brunette's face turned red. Yes, Hinata muttered, unable to deny that Naruto's new looks made her feel really good whenever her imagination began wandering. So, we both like him, we're both friends, and I doubt either of us would want to end our friendship just because we like the same guy. Instead, what do you think about sharing him? Satsuki said, with Hinata looking at her in surprise. Sharing him? Hinata asked, not expecting Satsuki to suggest that, while the Uchiha shrugged in response. Yeah, it seems obvious. That way we're both happy with the guy we like, and with a life he's lived wouldn't Naruto-kun deserve as much love as he can get? I also won't deny that I'm attracted to you as well. Besides, we also saw how Kanoka acts around him, and how Mogi is likely starting to develop feelings for him as well. Not to mention Fu, who understands what he's been through better than any of us. You really think that there won't be other girls that end up falling for him? Said Satsuki, not surprised if Naruto ends up unknowingly charming other girls he meets just from talking to them or helping them. While Hinata was still surprised at the suggestion of sharing Naruto, before thinking over Satsuki's words and realized she was right. It wouldn't be surprising if there end up being more girls that fall for the whiskered ravenet. And while part of her was unsure about sharing, Hinata also wouldn't want to deprive any of them the chance to be with Naruto if they'd truly care about him, since she wouldn't want to lose her own chance to be with him either. It might even be more fun, Hinata thought while blushing with a clouded look in her eyes, imagining her Naruto and Satsuki all being together before other girls began appearing with him, before she quickly shook her head and looked at Satsuki. If you're okay with sharing Naruto-kun, then I am too. And I think you're really pretty too, Satsuki-chan, Hinata admitted, making the ravenet smile. I'm glad to hear it, Hinata-chan, and I'm sure we'll be having plenty of fun together, Satsuki said with a smirk before giggling at the Hyuga's flushed face. The two girls then began relaxing and enjoying the warm water, feeling happy and content with everything they talked about and the decision made. Later, Fire Temple. Though unknown to everyone in Konoha, once night had fallen, the Fire Temple was attacked by Orochimaru and the Sound Five, each of whom had a cursed seal, like Kimimaro, with them also being aided by another group that Orochimaru had recruited in his plan to destroy Konoha. Why the fuck are we even here? Kimimaro's basically doing everything himself, and we're just left dealing with a few shitty monks, said one of the Sound Five in annoyance. They were a fair-skinned girl with a slender build, and was rather short, being the shortest member of the Sound Five. She had brown eyes that were accentuated by her eyelashes extending into the corners of her eyes, and was usually sporting an impassive expression on her face. Her most distinctive feature was her long, untamed, dark red hair that falls past her shoulders with long parted bangs framing either side of her face and one between her eyes. Her curse seal is applied on the back of her neck, where it is in a circular pattern of 3 hooks, similar to a triskelion, concealed by her hair. Her attire was a black shirt under a tan tunic with elbow-length sleeves and bore the symbol of the Sound Four on the hem, and black skin-tight shorts. She wore black arm warmers, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple, rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around her waist. To keep her wild hair out of the way, she also wore a black hat with pipe-like stripes and bandaged sides, keeping her bangs in place while the rest is pushed back behind her ears to trail down her back. This was Tayuya of the North Gate, the only female member of the Sound Five, with Tayuya currently directing her Doki summons to attack any of the ninja monks that tried getting close to her or ensnared them in her genjutsu with her flute. Tayuya, a lady shouldn't swear that much, nor should you question Orochimaru-sama's orders. If he wants us here, then there's nothing to say, another Sound Five member said. With them being the tallest member of the Sound Five, they were a large and imposing young man, towering over the rest of his teammates. He had fair skin and narrowed, slanted orange eyes, usually depicted with a stern look on his face. He had 3 tufts of orange hair on his head, a mohawk of sorts that ran down the middle and 2 similar styled tufts of hair at the side, with him wearing a beige-colored, sleeveless tunic with the symbol of the Sound Four on the hem and a pair of black, 3/4 length pants that stopped just below his knees. He wore black arm warmers and a necklace that comprised of red circular pieces separating long, metallic pieces. He also wore traditional black shinobi sandals with mid-calf leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around his waist. This was Jirobo of the South Gate. Earth-style barrier, Earth Dome Prison, said Jirobo, going through hand signs before creating a dome of earth around a group of monks and began absorbing their chakra. I ain't questioning shit, fat ass. I just don't like wasting my time when we clearly aren't needed. See, retorted Tayuya, pointing towards where Kimimaro was fighting, just as dozens of bone spikes burst out of the ground, impaling multiple monks at once, with those being unlucky enough to still be alive melting away from the Kaguya's now acid-like blood that he covered his bones in. I mean, she's not wrong. We're basically just picking of stragglers and making sure Konohamaru doesn't end up killing everyone, since Orochimaru-sama wants at least some alive to be used," said another Sound 5 member. They were a dark-skinned shinobi with black, shaggy hair tied into a ponytail and black eyes. He was the second tallest member of the Sound 5 and usually had a confident grin on his face. Uniquely, he also had 6 arms and an eye on his forehead that was usually closed and concealed under his black otogakure forehead protector. With his attire consisting of a black, sleeveless shirt under a sleeveless gray tunic that bore the symbol of the Sound 5 on the hem, and black skin-tight shorts. He wore black arm warmers, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple, rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around his waist. This was Konohamaru of the East Gate. Konohamaru was standing on the back of his personal summons Kyotogumo with his bow, firing arrows at monks to either kill or incapacitate them. All while Kyotogumo moved around the temple, spinning a large web and trapping any monks in web cocoons. "Who cares? Let's just get this over with already," said the final member of the Sound 5 with a scowl on his face. He had fair skin and straight, light blue-gray hair, with long bangs that covered his right eye, green shade of lipstick, and had dark markings around his eyes, giving them an androgynous appearance, and a curse seal planted on his forehead just above his eye, which are covered by their bangs. His attire was a black shirt under a brown tunic with long sleeves and bore the symbol of the Sound 5 on the hem, and black skin-tight shorts, black arm warmers, which are mistaken for being part of their sleeves, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple, rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around their waists. He also wore a dark red beaded necklace around his neck and carried a giant scroll behind his back through one of the loop of his rope-like belt. Though they were unique in that they had another head growing from the back of their neck, with it looking identical to his own, only with the bangs and curse seal on the opposite side of their face, with the head being his twin brother, due to their Kekkei Genkai allowing them to merge their bodies together. This was Saken and Yukin of the West Gate, as well as the former leader of the Sound 5. Originally, the Sound 4 after Konohamaru's illness became too great for him to remain in the field. But with Konohamaru's recovery and greater strength, he's reclaimed his position as leader. Something that Saken hated due to him no longer being the strongest or fastest of the Sound 5 anymore, and fully knowing he couldn't do anything about it with Konohamaru's loyalty to Orochimaru, and refusing to let anyone dare question the Snake Sannin. Saken scowled as he punched a monk in the head, his strength being increased as Yukin's arms came out delivering a triple punch, sending the monk flying back and slamming into a wall, before spinning around with his leg out, with Yukin's legs coming out as well, slamming the 3 legs into 3 monks that charged the twins from behind. Yeah, boo fuckity who, you aren't top beak anymore? Go shove your other head up your ass, F-face, Tayuya said while rolling her eyes, having grown tired of Saken's complaining that he wasn't leader anymore. Tayuya, ladies shouldn't, said Jorob. Beast wave palm, someone shouted before blades of wind chakra rushed through the air and slammed into Jorobo, knocking him back. Beast wave gale palm, yelled the person as a large amount of wind chakra condensed into the shape of a demonic claw crashed down on top of Konohamaru and Kyotogumo, smashing them into the ground and being strong enough to dispel the spider summon. Who the F is it now? Demanded Tayuya as she began playing her flute, casting a widespread genjutsu on whoever's attacking them, along with directing her doki to attack them. That would be us. Welcoming approach, 1,000 armed murder, someone said, before 1,000 glowing red chakra fists rushed forward, raining done blow after blow against the Sound 5 members, beating them into the ground. They were just barely able to see their attackers were 2 more of the monks, only ones that seemed much stronger. The first was a bald man with dark eyes and very thick eyebrows. He wore the standard attire of the ninja monk along with the sash worn by members of the 12 Guardian Ninja group and went barefoot, with him currently being surrounded by a gold-colored avatar made of chakra. And the second was a young kid with fair skin, straight shoulder length, dull bluish-gray hair in an asymmetrical style with a single lock of hair falling into his face, and brown-colored eyes. He was wearing sandals and the standard monk uniform with a long right sleeve, and a Takagi Shuko on his left hand. Let me finish them. Kairaku, said the kid, holding his claws up as they glowed with chakra before rushing towards the Sound 5 while they were pinned from Kairaku's attacks. "No, Sora, the others need your help. Find anyone you can and get them out of the temple now," Kairaku said, knowing that these attackers were far stronger than Sora could handle. "But," Sora said. "Wind style, Shakujo twister," someone said, before a large twister slammed into Sora's and Kairaku's backs, with Sora being sent crashing into one of the temple's pillars, while Kairaku's avatar protected him from the twister. "Another?" Kairaku said, scowling at seeing another attack appear. The attacker was a tall man with a tan complexion, long white hair that looked worn out, and brown eyes, along with a long pale scar stretching diagonally across his face. With him wearing a purple kippao-like garment that was lined with yellow, blue, and gray and straw sandals, and carrying a shakujo staff. "Sorry for the interruption, but I couldn't pass up the chance for such a long-await reunion," said the man with a laid-back smirk, before raising his shakujo blocking Sora's claws when he tried slashing him. "If you're talking about your friends that attacked the temple, then you can reunite with them when you're all dead," Sora said, slashing his claws at the man, only for each attack to be blocked while the man continued smirking. "I was actually talking about reuniting with my son, I haven't seen in years. And I can see you've grown very strong, Sora," said the man, causing Sora to freeze and look at him with wide eyes. What did you just say? What did you say?" demanded Sora, while Kairaku's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the man. No, it can't be. "Kazuma?" Kairaku said in shock and disbelief, barely recognizing his former comrade and friend. "I've actually been going by Furito recently, but yeah, it's me. And it's nice to finally see you again after so many years, Sora," Kazuma said, smiling at his son. To Tusan, but you were dead. I was told you were killed. You aren't my father," Sora said, glaring murderously at Kazuma and rushed him with claws again, intending to kill this imposter for pretending to be his father, only for Kazuma to block his attacks with ease. "I assure, I am your father, Sora. You remember how I always took pride in my appearance and abilities, never letting so much as a stain get on my sash. I'm still me, Sora, I swear," said Kazuma, with Sora still attacking him with tears in his eyes. "Then where were you? Why didn't you ever come back?" Sora shouted, wanting to know why his father never came back if he has been alive. "It's because I couldn't. I'm sure you were told how I was a traitor, that I tried staging a coup against the fire daimyo. But the truth is I love the land of fire and would do anything to protect it, and ensure that it's led by the rightful ruler, which is the daimyo. But the land of fire could never be whole as long as Konoha and the Hokage exist. I wanted to liberate the land of fire and free it, so that control could be returned to the true king, not divided between the daimyo and a cage," revealed Kazuma, pushing Sora out of the way and jumping back when Kairaku tried striking him. "Be silent, Kazuma. Stop filling his head with lies. You became nothing but a radical and a maniac that tried killing the fire daimyo," Kairaku said, glaring at Kazuma. "I was trying to save the daimyo from you, Asuma, and the others. You were the ones that betrayed me and left me for dead," Kazuma retorted, with Sora looking between the two. "What's he talking about, Kairaku? Who's Asuma?" Sora demanded. "Asuma Sarutobi, the son of the current Hokage, and the one who gave me this scar. He intended for it to kill me, but I survived and went into hiding. I knew I couldn't do anything with the rest of my allies dead, but I could still live and save the land of fire from their plans to overthrow the daimyo. That's why you have that arm, Sora. Asuma, Kairaku, and the Hokage, they all infused you with remnants of the Kyuubi's chakra 2 years after it attacked. They planned to use you as their weapon against the daimyo and take control of the land of fire for Konoha," Kazuma revealed. "Stop it, Kazuma. Haven't you hurt Sora enough?" yelled Kairaku as he had his avatar's 1,000 fists attack Kazuma, with Kazuma quickly running back and created another twister to block the fists, with the two attacks colliding together. "The only one hurting him is you, Kairaku. I love my son and came back to save him from your schemes. I've found new allies to help get revenge on Konoha and the entire hidden village system for what it's done. And we can do it together, Sora. Join me and we can set things right, the way they're supposed to be. We can free the land of fire from Konoha. Together with Orochimaru, we'll both have our revenge," Kazuma said, looking at his son. "Don't listen to him, Sora. The man you called father is gone. All he's trying to do is manipulate you. He's the one that, said Kairaku. Shut up, Sora roared with red chakra bubbling around him, the bandages on his right arm disintegrating, revealing the daimonic beast arm it became. Before rushing Kairaku, the monk having no time to react when Sora drove his claws into his chest, making him gasp in pain. So Sora, don't, Kairaku said only to be silenced when Sora swung his beast arm, tearing his head off his shoulders. I said shut up, growled Sora, before falling to his knees panting and holding his arm in pain, only to look up at his father when Kazuma patted him on the head. You did good, Sora. You've freed yourself from the lies and manipulations of those you thought you could trust, just as I did. And soon we'll free the rest of the world as well, Kazuma said, smiling at his son before helping him stand up. Now come on, we've still got work to do, and you'll be meeting my new team and our allies, said Kazuma, with Sora nodding in agreement, eager for the chance to get revenge on those that used and manipulated him. As the slaughter continued, Orochimaru watched from up on the gates, smirking as the Sound 5 and Kazuma's group killed everyone, while the rest of his forces were capturing those that were still alive for his experiments and looting the temple of anything valuable. Suna, Taki, and now Kazuma's team. Combined with Kimamaru's new power, it won't be long before Konoha is nothing but a distant memory. And then Orochimaru thought, chuckling wickedly while bringing a hand up to his face. The world will no longer be still, and I shall be relieved of my boredom, stated Orochimaru, eager for what's to come from everything he's setting into motion. Time skip one day. Hokage's office. I've just received word, the fire temple has been attacked and destroyed, said Hiruzen to Team 7 and Team 10, having called them to his office after the message arrived about Fire Temple's destruction. The fire temple was attacked? Someone managed to get past the sealed iron wall, said Kakashi in disbelief, having heard how powerful the sealed iron wall is and that nothing could break past it. Kairaku, Asuma muttered in concern, shocked and horrified to learn the fire temple was attacked and destroyed, but also concerned for his friend and former comrade's safety. With the Sandaime giving his son a concerned glance, knowing how much he cared for the only friend he had left from the 12 Guardian Ninja. Hokage-sama, what's the fire temple exactly? Questioned Choji, with the other genin also being curious of what the fire temple was. It's where ninja monks trained themselves to combat, seal, and defeat yakai and other such supernatural creatures. They utilize a special ability known as the Gift of the Hermit Group. And while it's rare, they also have priestesses in training that become Mikos, Kakashi explained. Indeed. Now we don't know who is responsible, which is why I'm sending you all to investigate what's happened. Gather any information that you can on who could have attacked, as well as locate any survivors, Hiruzen said, with the two teams nodding in response. Understood, Hokage-sama, we'll set out right away, Asuma said, wanting to get to the fire temple as fast as they could to see if anyone survived, and hopefully find out what happened. Good, dismissed, said Sarutobi, with both teams leaving to prepare for the trip to the fire temple. Later. It didn't take long for the teams to get ready and meet up at the gate, before they immediately jumped into the trees and began making their way to the fire temple. With Kakashi glancing at Asuma a few times, noticing how he didn't even try taking out a cigarette, knowing he'd usually have one out by now. Though Kakashi wasn't surprised, aware of his friendship with Kairaku and emphasizing with his worry about a friend. Are you gonna be alright, Asuma? Kakashi asked, making Asuma glance at him before looking forward. I'll be fine, replied Asuma, with the copy ninja nodded slowly in response before sighing. Okay, but keep in mind, whatever we find, it may not be what you want to see. And if the worst happened, I'm here if you want to talk. Take it from someone who's been there, it's never good to keep your emotions bottled up or closing yourself off, said Kakashi, with Asuma nodding in response. Thanks, Kakashi, and I'll probably take the offer later. But right now, I just want to focus on getting to the fire temple, Asuma said, with Kakashi nodding as they continued on their way. Later. When the ninja arrived at the fire temple and ascended the stairs to the top, they couldn't help but look around in horror at what was left of the once grand temple. Oh, Kami, Ino muttered in horror, seeing the destruction around them, along with the bodies of the monks, some of them looking like they've been ripped apart. Damn it, said Asuma, cursing the sight and not seeing Kairaku anywhere. Knowing if he was still alive, then he'd be here still trying to find any survivors. "Are you alright, Satsuki?" Hinata asked, looked at her teammate in concern with she stood frozen in place, before the Uchiha shook her head. "Fine, I'm fine thanks, Hinata," replied Satsuki, the sight having momentarily triggered her PTSD from the night of the massacre from all the destruction and death they saw. "Everyone start searching for clues on what could have happened here, and look for any survivors. Hinata, use your Byakugan to see through any rubble," said Kakashi, snapping out of his shocked state, with the genin nodding as they moved to start searching the ruins for clues and survivors. Looking through the ruins, Kakashi and Asuma noticed some things as they looked, one of the most noticeable being the white spikes that seemed to be protruding from the ground. "Is that bone?" Asuma said as they looked at them closely, with Kakashi frowning as they grabbed one, grunting as he tried breaking a piece off. "It looks like it, and it's a lot stronger than any normal bones," said Kakashi. "Could it be a Kekkei Genkai?" said Asuma, pulling out his trench knives and tried cutting it, surprised that it barely got halfway through, even with wind chakra. "Most likely. I've only heard of one clan with the Kekkei Genkai to manipulate their bones, the Kaguya clan. But they were wiped out years ago after trying to attack Kirigakure, while their Kekkei Genkai is supposed to only awaken in a select few clan members," Kakashi said with a frown before he noticed something on the ground. "Well, it looks like one is still alive, and they aren't friendly," Asuma stated before looking at Kakashi when he tossed him something. "Even worse, it looks they have ties to Orochimaru," said Kakashi gravely, with Asuma looking at the object, seeing it's a headband with a music note on the metal plate, making his eyes widen. Having heard rumors of a new hidden village being created a few years ago in the Land of Rice, now called the Land of Sound, Adagakure. But what's worrying were the recent rumors that Orochimaru may also have ties to its creations, but no actual proof that he did create Adagakure. "Why would Orochimaru want to attack the Fire Temple? And who could have helped him?" questioned Asuma, doubting just Orochimaru and any followers he had were responsible for this, that they must have had help from others. Even worse was that knowing Orochimaru and the twisted experiments he performs, there's really no way for him to know if Kairaku is alive or dead. Knowing Orochimaru, it won't be good for anyone, Kakashi said before they kept searching, hoping to find anything else to learn about who else was responsible for this, with Satsuki and Hinata. Satsuki and Hinata, meanwhile, were searching another part of the temple, with the Hyuga having her Byakugan activated to see through the rubble for any survivors. Being sure to look carefully at everything she saw, not wanting to risk overlooking anything. "Satsuki, I see someone over there," said Hinata when she spotted a chakra signature under some rubble, getting the Ravenet's attention at where she was looking before the two girls ran over. Moving the rubble out of the way, the genin soon found someone lying unconscious on the ground, unmoving but thankfully still alive. The person was a rather beautiful young woman, looking 13 years old like them, maybe a year older, with somewhat pale skin and long, wavy black hair that looked to have a blue tint in certain lighting. With her wearing the traditional Miko attire, consisting of scarlet-red hakama, a white haori, and tabai sandals, though her clothes had some rips and tears in it, while bruises and cuts covered her body. Acting quickly, Satsuki and Hinata made hand seals before holding their hands over the girl, with green chakra surrounding their hands as they used the limited medical ninjutsu they knew to help her. Relieved to see her injuries were slowly beginning to heal and fade away, before seeing the girl's eyes began fluttering open, revealing they were brown-colored. What ha? The girl muttered before her eyes widened in panic at seeing Satsuki and Hinata hovering over her, making the girl scream and quickly sat up to try and run from them, thinking that they were more invaders or with the ones that had attacked, only to collapse back to the ground moaning in pain from the injuries that weren't fully healed, making her even more terrified that she couldn't escape. "Hey, easy, you're still injured, and we're not here to hurt you or with those that attacks the temple," Satsuki said assuredly, making the girl look at them warily before noticing their headbands and calmed down. You're from Konoha," said the girl, seeing that they weren't enemies and had been sent from Konoha. "Yes, we are. I'm Hinata Hyuga, this is my teammate, Satsuki Uchiha. We were sent here by the Hokage after getting word the fire temple had been attacked, to try and find clues to who attacked and help any survivors," replied Hinata, with Satsuki nodding in agreement. What's your name? And what were you doing at the fire temple? Questioned Satsuki, seeing the girl had calmed down and would hopefully be able to tell them what happened and anything she saw. Kagome Higurashi. I'm a priestess in training, and Kagome introduced before she began breathing heavily as she recalled what happened last night. Everyone that died, how they'd been slaughtered. Easy, you're safe now, Kagome. We promise. We just want to help and find out what happened here, all right? Hinata said, smiling comfortingly at the Ravenet, with Kagome nodding shakily in response. Okay, now could you Satsuki said, wanting to ask her what happened, only to be interrupted by a loud crash. Human bullet tank. The three girls instantly looked towards where the crash and shout came from, before the genin helped Kagome stand up. With them then running off towards the commotion, recognizing Choji's voice and the technique he used, making them wonder if some of the invaders stayed behind to deal with any survivors, or if scavengers showed up to try taking anything left behind. Though when they arrived, they found Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino fighting against a teenage girl, holding what looked like a glowing blue sword made of pure energy. The girl looked to be around the same age as Kagome, with fair skin, short silver hair with a streak of red in one of her bangs, and magenta eyes, with her wearing rather strange clothing consisting of a light purplish graphite button dress shirt with a paradise pink ribbon underneath a white blazer with violet accents and golden buttons, matching white pants attached to a brown belt with a golden buckle, white socks, and brown boots, with her also having another sword sheathed on her back. Azure Dragon Wave, the girl yelled, swinging her sword, unleashing a wave of energy that took the shape of a serpentine dragon with red eyes, with the dragon roaring as it slammed into Choji and sent him flying back, embedding the Akimichi air in the wall around the temple's ruins. Shadow Possession Jutsu, said Shikamaru, quickly making a hand sign as his shadow rushed towards the girl, only for her to jump back into the air. Okay, you guys are really starting to annoy me, said the girl as her energy sword vanished, revealing just a broken blade, before grabbed the sword on her back and pulled it out, revealing it to be a rather battered-looking katana, being heavily chipped and rusted, making it doubtful it could even cut anything. Now I'm ending this, the girl said, holding out the sword as it began glowing and transforming into something much bigger. Toa, yelled Kagome, recognizing the girl and the sword she had, with the sudden shout making the genin and the now named Toa stop, with the silverette looking at Kagome in surprise and relief, while her sword stopped its transformation and was returned to its sheath. Kagome, thank goodness you're all right, Toa said, running over to Kagome and hugging her, which she gladly returned. Satsuki, Hinata, careful, that girl came out of nowhere and attacked us, Ino called out as she and her teammates still looked ready to fight, while Toa pulled back and narrowed her eyes at them. Because you three attacked me first. You're lucky I couldn't use my full power with us being on holy ground, retorted Toa, while muttering the last bit to herself, angry that they attacked her and now were accusing her of starting the conflict. Well, how are we supposed to know you aren't with the people who attacked in the first place and was just returning to kill anyone that survived, or some scavenger that wants to loot the temple, said Ino. Quiet, Satsuki yelled, making everyone fall silent before they looked at Kakashi and Asuma when they appeared. We heard the shouting. What happened? Said Asuma, looking around any sign of who they could be fighting, only to look at Kagome and Toa upon spotting them. It seems like you managed to find some survivors. Who are they? Kakashi asked, looking at the genin. Actually, we only found Kagome there. We were going to ask her anything that she knew or saw from the attack, but then we heard a commotion and found the others fighting this girl. We don't know who she is, but Kagome seems to know her, replied Hinata, making the jonin look at Kagome. Yeah, I do know her. Her name's Toa. She's my older sister's and brother-in-law's niece. Toa, what are you even doing here? Kagome asked while looking at her. I came to see if you were all right. After we heard about the attack on the fire temple, we wanted to make sure nothing happened to you, and I'm glad to see you're alive, Toa replied, making Kagome smile and nod. Thank you for coming, and if it wasn't for these Konoha ninja, I'm not sure if I'd have lasted much longer, said Kagome as she nodded to Satsuki and Hinata, with Toa looking at them and bowing in thanks. Then you have mine, and our families, thanks for saving Kagome. said Toa, before Team 10 went up to her. I guess we should apologize then, if you aren't an enemy or scavenger. We're sorry for jumping to any conclusions when we saw you, and then attacking you. Ino said, willing to admit they acted without thinking who she could actually be. Yeah, sorry about that, added Choji, with Shikamaru sighing tiredly. That was so troublesome and such a waste of time. But yeah, sorry, said Shikamaru. Okay, so Kagome is it? Can you tell us what happened here? Kakashi asked as they all looked at the Ravenet, who shivered at remembering what happened. It happened just last night when we were attacked. The attack was led by Orochimaru and his followers. The strongest were 5 ninja that all had special abilities, with the most dangerous one being this guy who could manipulate his bones and seemed to have blood that melted anything it touched. But there was another group that was helping them. There were only 4, but all of them were really strong. Though it was the leader of the other group, he said his name was Kazuma from the 12 Guardian Ninja. Kagome revealed, making Asuma look at her with wide eyes. Kazuma? No, that's impossible. Kazuma's dead, said Asuma, shaking his head in denial, only for Kagome to shake her head, along with recognizing who Asuma was. It's true, he had a scar on his face that he said you gave to him. He turned Sora against the fire temple, claiming that you, Kairaku, and the Hokage sealed fragments of the Kyuubi's chakra in him, something that ended up mutating his right arm to look beastly and demonic. That you wanted to use him as a weapon against the fire daimyo. Sora believed him and he killed Kairaku himself, before he then helped them kill everyone before leaving. They also took Kairaku's body with them when they left, said Kagome, looking down in sadness, while the others were shocked at hear this, though Satsuki and Hinata looked at each other worriedly at hearing this Sora kid had some of the Kyuubi's chakra sealed in him. While Asuma stumbled back, feeling a mix of emotions, mostly grief, guilt, regret, anger, and disgust, that Kazuma was still alive and would manipulate his own son into turning on his peers and killing Kairaku like that. Kazuma, I swear I'll finish the job next time I see you, Asuma mentally swore, refusing to forgive Kazuma for doing something like this, now seeing the man he once saw as a friend is truly gone. Was there anything else, Kagome? Kakashi asked, knowing how dangerous this could be if Orochimaru now had a pseudo-Jinchuriki with him. No, I had been knocked unconscious when some debris fell on me, so I didn't see or hear anything else that happened. I was just lucky that no one found me or they thought I was dead, Kagome said with a shiver, knowing she got lucky with how she could have easily been killed or worse, with Toa putting a hand on her shoulder. If you're feeling good enough, I'll take you back to Uncle Inuyasha and Aunt Kikayo. I'm sure they'll be relieved to know you're all right, said Toa, with Kagome nodding in agreement. Yeah, that'd be great. I could use some time to rest after everything. Thank you again for your help, Kagome said, smiling at Satsuki and Hinata, which they returned. No problem. I'm just glad we got here when we did, replied Satsuki, as they waved to Kagome and Toa when they took their leave. Once they were gone, Kakashi sighed and looked around, doubting that they'll be able to find any other survivors, and they already found out everything they'd need to know about who did this. Let's get back to the village. We need to let the Hokage know what's happened, Kakashi said, with Asuma nodded in agreement as they left the ruins of the temple. All the while, both Jonin couldn't help but be concerned over what Orochimaru could be planning, that it involved making such a drastic move as this, only knowing that whatever it is, it's definitely going to be something big. With Naruto and Yugao. Meanwhile, back at Tasai's hut, Naruto had trained under his fellow Uzumaki for several weeks, learning everything he had to teach about Fuinjutsu and blacksmithing. With the whiskered Ravenet currently showing Tasai a sword he's finished, to be inspected on if it's good enough. Now deformities, good weight and balance, said Tasai before plucking out a hair and dropping it onto the sword's edge, nodding in approval when it was sliced in half. And a razor-sharp edge. You have certainly come far, Naruto. I can say you've learned everything I have to teach you about Fuinjutsu and blacksmithing. The only way to get any better is to simply get experience, Tasai said, making Naruto smile happily and nod in thanks. Thank you, Tasai. I'll make sure to keep improving on everything you've taught me, replied Naruto with a short bow. I'm sure you will. But there's still one final test for you to complete. It's time for you to forge Zen-Jetsu yourself. stated Tasai, much to the younger Usumaki's excitement at finally being able to begin work on Zan-Jetsu. With Yugao watching from the side, smiling at Naruto's excitement to begin creating his own sword. Though the perplete couldn't help but frown as she looked around at the area around Tasai's hut. Unsure if it was paranoia from the less than warm welcome they received in Takimi village or her instincts from Anbu, but she felt like they were constantly being watched. Something tells me that we won't be able to leave peacefully. Let's hope you learn how to use your sword quickly, Naruto thought Yugao, unable to help but feel the moment they leave, they'll need to fight their way out of Takimi village. Unknown location. Unknown to Naruto and Yugao, back in Takimi village, Hoki and the rest of the 4 celestial symbols men were meeting, with the other members being Kujaku, Ryugen, and Suiko. Hoki had a slim face with a prominent jawline with a visible black line around the lower area of his eyes and brown hair that was swept to the back. He wore a light beige-colored forehead protector with a Takimi village insignia printed on. He also sported a purple jacket of sorts along with the rest of the 4 celestial symbols men and had a white sword strapped to his back. Kujaku was a fairly slender kunoichi who had fair skin, blue-green, cyan hair that had 2 light yellow striped bangs in the front of her hair, and light brown pupil-less eyes, along with light red lipstick, with her wearing a light gray jacket that had a long white furry tuft around her neck. Under this was a dark red sleeveless dress that exposes most of her top cleavage, had 2 dark brown belts wrapped around it, one at the top of her waist and the other at the bottom. Under that was a light brown sleeveless shirt that had covered her dark red sleeveless dress, a long light gray sleeveless leather glove on her right arm, a long light brown stocking that covered her left arm, which had a single pitch black leather glove covering her right hand, a white hidden artisan's forehead protector that was wrapped up all around her forehead, wore light gray calf-length high-heel stocking sandals. Ryugen was a slender boy, with green eyes that were outlined by blue eyeshadow. His blue hair slightly popped out of his white forehead protector, with the rest neatly combed throughout his head. Around his neck was a white scarf that reached down to his pants. Ryugen wore a tight, purple sleeveless shirt which revealed his abdomen. On his arms were purple arm warmers with brown straps that secured them onto his arms. His gray baggy pants were fastened by a thick, brown belt. The lower part of his pants was tucked into his sandals. And Suiko was by far the largest of his group. A broadly built man, he wore a purple coat over which he wore his armor, which was designed with a silver tiger-like head breastplate and a pair of dark blue pauldrons. His eyes had small black pupils and wavy brown hair with a small beard, with him also wearing a unique chest plate in the shape of a tiger's face. Everything is prepared. We have recovered Seimei-sama's body from where he was buried. The others are lying in wait for when those ninja leave that old fool's shack. It won't be long before the rest of the hidden villages will feel the wrath of Takimi village, Hoki said, making the others smirk eagerly. Good, I can't wait to show those loser ninja what real weapon masters look like, stated Ryugen, eager to kill the ninja and show the power of Takimi village. We still need the boy to revive Seimei-sama, which will at least give the runt a chance to be useful for a greater cause, Suiko said, wanting to show off the powerful defense of his armor, how useless their precious jutsu are against him. That doesn't mean he needs to be in one piece, ahahahahaha, Kujaku laughed, wanting to slice the ninja up with her swords. The 4 knew it wouldn't be long before the ninja left Tadasai's hut, with the rest of the Takimi ninja lying in wait for when they do, ready to attack and weaken them enough to use the boy for the ritual to revive Seimei. They would have attacked by now if it wasn't for the barrier Tasai had put up around his hut, ensuring only he and those he invites can enter. Soon they will all feel our wrath and beg for mercy. Hoki thought eagerly that soon they'll have their reckoning and all of the elemental nations will soon learn who truly stand at the top. After being told that he was ready to begin working on creating Zan-Jetsu, Tasai had told Naruto to go and prepare himself. Given once he started working on the sword, he wouldn't have many chances to stop and rest, as it'll take a lot of time and energy to ensure it turns out the way he wants it. Leading to the whiskered ravenet to go for a walk to clear his head and relax. I'm going to have to give this my complete focus. I can't afford to get distracted and make any mistakes, thought Naruto, looking up at the night sky before sighing and shaking his head, pushing aside any doubts and worries he had, instead focusing on making Zan-Jetsu the best he can make it. Though unknown to Naruto, a fragment of the moon had just broke off and is being pulled into by the planet's gravity, hurtling faster and faster as it entered the atmosphere, before heating up and beginning to break apart, until eventually the fragment shot across the sky and crashed down, not far from where Naruto was. With the Uzumaki's eyes widening in shock as he felt the ground start shaking, before noticing the streak of smoke going through the sky and down to the ground. Did something crash into the ground? Naruto wondered, before going towards where the trail went to check out what had caused the shaking. It didn't take long before Naruto arrived at a large, smoking crater, looking down in the center in surprise to see a red-hot, glowing and steaming meteorite. Whoa, a meteorite! Naruto muttered while jumping down into the crater to get a closer look, amazed at the sight of it. Along with sensing the chakra radiating off it, along with feeling the power Zen-Aku passed onto him seemed to be reacting to the meteorite as well. I'm definitely using this, thought Naruto, smiling as he pulled out a storage scroll and sealed the meteorite away, given it's likely still incredibly hot. With the chakra that's contained within it and his power from Zen-Aku reacting to it, not to mention the fact of how rare such a thing would be, the Whiskered Ravenet planned to use the meteorite in forging Zan-Jetsu, knowing it'd be an invaluable forging material. Once he had the meteorite sealed away, Naruto made his way back to Tasai's house to show him and Yugao what he's found. Later. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive back at Tasai's house, being greeted by both Yugao and the older Uzumaki. Tasai, Yugao-sensei, I think I found something that can be used in forging Zan-Jetsu, Naruto stated, making the two look at him curiously. What did you find, Naruto? Questioned Yugao, wondering what he could have managed to find to think it'd be good in using to make his sword. Rather than respond, Naruto unsealed the meteorite he'd found, much to their amazement at the sight of it and feeling the chakra radiating off of it. Well, I'll be damned, you've managed to get your hands on a moon rock, Tasai said, looking over the meteorite, with Naruto and Yugao looking at him now. Moon rock? Isn't it just a regular meteorite? Naruto said, not expecting to learn it actually broke off from the moon. It's a meteorite, yes, but this came from the moon, I'm sure of it. You can tell just from the amount of chakra coming off it. It's only possible to have come from the moon, replied Tasai, which only confused them further. How can you tell it's from the moon just because of the chakra coming from it? Yugao asked, looking at the meteorite, still amazed at the power she sensed coming from it. It was discovered a long time ago by an Uzumaki astrologist, learning that there are times when pieces of the moon break off before being pulled in by the planet's gravity, crashing down as meteorites. They saw it for themselves one time through a telescope. Before going off with a research team to where it first crash landed, they took the fragments back to Uzumaki to study them, learning that the energy and chakra levels coming from them was off the charts, far surpassing that star the ninja of Hoshigakure takes so much pride in, Tasai explained, with Naruto frowning slightly at the mention of his clan's village. Having learned more about the Uzumaki clan while training under Tasai, and the more he heard the more bitter and angry he got, learning that he didn't just have a clan, but that they had their own village, one that had been allied with Konoha, with even the Shadai Hokage having married an Uzumaki, only for them to be wiped out during the Second Shinobi World War by an alliance made up of several hidden villages, including Kirigakure, Iwagakure, Sunagakure, and numerous smaller villages and nations that had allied with them to destroy the Uzumaki clan. Yet not once has he ever heard anything about the Uzumaki clan or Usushio in Konoha. What made him even angrier is the fact that the red swirl on Konoha's flak jackets belongs to his clan, along with the swirl in the lead on the forehead protectors. But somehow everyone seems to either not know or chose to forget the existence of the Uzumaki clan. The only reason he hasn't gotten more upset is because he wanted to focus on his training and creating Zan-Jetsu. Though once he's back in Konoha, the Whiskered Ravenet fully intended to get answers one way or another. As for what he was going to do once he has those answers, Naruto was still deciding on if Konoha deserved his loyalty or not. Hoshigakure, said Naruto, pushing aside those thoughts for the time being, instead wondering about this other hidden village. It's a minor hidden village located in the Land of Bears. It was founded 200 years ago by the Shadai Hokage after discovering a fallen star that landed there, building Hoshigakure near the crater where it landed. with them developing a training regimen to enhance their ninjas' chakra reserves from the power within the star," replied Yugao, with Naruto raising a brow at hearing Hoshigakure had a cage. "I didn't know there was a sixth cage," Naruto stated, only for Yugao and Tasai to shake their heads. Just because they call themselves Kage doesn't make them an official one. They didn't even originally call their leaders the Hoshikage, only claiming the title after the other hidden villages were founded and named their own leaders as Kage, with Hoshigakure also using the title as well, but no one acknowledges it as official and none of the Hoshikage could hope to stand on the same level or have come close," Tasai said, before turning back to the meteor. "Anyway, this is certainly a lucky find and a very valuable material to use in creating weapons. Even better that if this just landed, then it's only freshly broken off from the moon, making the chakra and energy within much more potent. If you use this to create Zan-Jetsu, you'll truly have a sword unlike any other, well, almost unlike any other. I actually discovered a moon rock myself long ago. It was one of the materials I used in forging Tasai years ago. Now here you are, creating your own sword using the fragments of Tasai, after that stupid brat Inuyasha broke it, and a moon rock of your own to forge a new sword. You aren't planning to follow the stupid brat in breaking Zan-Jetsu, will you?" Tasai said, looking at Naruto with an evil look in his beady eyes, with the younger Uzumaki slowly shaking his head. "And no, I won't," replied Naruto, making Tasai chuckle. "Good, if you did I'd have to take over and seeing that it's repaired. But then I'd also need some extra material, and thankfully your fangs seem to be about as long as Inuyasha's," said Tasai as he began snickering at remembering having to reforge his prized creation after Inuyasha broke it, with one of the materials he needed being one of Inuyasha's fangs. With Naruto and Yugao slowly edging away from the vindictive blacksmith, the former also covering his mouth at the idea of having one of his fangs ripped out. The two having heard about Tasai, the sword the fragments came from, how it was created from the fang of the great dog demon general, Toga, before it was passed on to his son Hanyo Inuyasha after his death, as well as the circumstances behind how it was broken and reforged, the latter of which involved Tasai yanking out one of Inuyasha's fangs with a pair of pliers, a rather painful experience that made both ninja shudder at the phantom pain. Now it made them wonder how much of the pain Inuyasha went through to have Tasai reforged was on purpose, given that Tasai seemed to still hold a grudge and shown to be incredibly vindictive whenever it's brought up on how the Hanyo broke his creation. Okay, what about the chakra in the meteorite? If it came from the moon, why would there be such powerful chakra in the moon to begin with? Naruto asked to change the subject, with Yugao also being curious at this, while Tasai stopped his snickering. Oh right, I sometimes forget that hardly anyone knows the truth of things anymore," said Tasai, which only increased their curiosity. "The truth of things?" questioned Yugao. "Yes, that the moon had been created centuries ago by the Sage of Six Paths, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, after his battle with the Jubai," revealed Tasai, much to Naruto's and Yugao's shock, with even the Kyubai's eyes snapping open from its slumber that anyone still knew about the Sage and Jubai. The Jubai is the first Biju, one that dwarfed the other 9 combined in both size and power. Even the tallest of mountains would be nothing but stepping stones to it. While possessing so much chakra, it could trigger natural disasters that covered the entire continent, if not beyond, and Hagoromo was the only one capable of defeating it, battling for days in a fight that scarred the land until he was able to seal the Jubai within himself, becoming the first Jinchuriki. It wasn't until he was at the end of his life did Hagoromo split the Jubai into the 9 Biju we know today while sealing the depowered husk into what's now the moon. That's why the moon contains such raw and powerful chakra, because even as just an empty husk, the Jubai's body is still quite powerful. Tasai explained, with Naruto's and Yugao's shock only growing further at hearing this. "That's honestly unreal," muttered Yugao, not believing the Sage of Six Paths actually existed. But there was once another Biju that the other 9 came from. The perplet couldn't help but shudder that such a beast could have existed, and even as a powerless husk, its chakra could still be as powerful as what she sensed in the meteor, if not stronger, not wanting to even imagine what it must have been like at full power. "Indeed, I suppose it's a good thing such knowledge has been lost to all but a few individuals," Tasai stated, something the two agreed with. as there'd be no telling what some people would do with the knowledge of the Jubai's existence. What some would do to try and possess a power that could make them into a god. But here's an interesting fact. Did you know that even if they aren't yakai themselves, some species of yakai are actually descended from the Biju? The most noticeable examples being Kitsune, Tanuki, and Nekomata. Revealed Tasai, causing the Ravenet and Perplet to look at him in confusion. But the Biju are just sentient masses of chakra, without actual genders. How could yakai be descended from them? Naruto asked. It's because of that it's child's play for them to change their form any way they want, including into that of a human. They can easily make themselves either male or female, depending on their preference for whichever gender. Tasai replied, much to their surprise. Haven't I suffered enough? Kyuubi groaned, not believing that knowledge was also still known and now was being shared with its container, making Naruto smirk at the chance to get some dirt on the fox. Out of curiosity, what form did the Kyuubi usually take? Questioned Naruto, making Yugao glance at him before turning to Tasai, unable to help her own curiosity at what the feared Kyuubi used as a human form. Female, said Tasai without skipping a beat, with this definitely catching Naruto and Yugao off guard. The Kyuubi has a female form? Yugao asked slowly, having not expected to hear that of all things. With Naruto sharing her disbelief, having thought the Kyuubi would have a male form, given how masculine it acted. It's actually a fairy tale, so who knows if it's true. But it goes that when the Kyuubi was young it ended up stumbling onto some women bathing in a stream, resulting in it modeling its human form after them, as this had also been its first experience with the female form at the time. After all, foxes are naturally curious creatures, so it wanted to learn more about their bodies. While taking on the name of Tamamo no Mi, by the time it decided to take on a male form, it had been so used to being female that the feeling of a male body was too foreign, and apparently even as a male, it still looked rather feminine. Explained Tasai. The ninja looked at him with wide eyes before smiling in amusement. I didn't think the Kyuubi was such a little pervert. Yugao stated in amusement, knowing if this got out then the Kyuubi's reputation would be utterly destroyed. I'm sure you must like my sexy jutsu then, huh fox? Do you prefer being sealed in a girl? Instead, thought Naruto, reveling in this new information, while the now embarrassed and flustered fox growled warningly towards him. Shut up. That was hundreds of years ago, and I've never bothered taking a human form again since then. And don't ever compare that pathetic jutsu to my glory. You aren't even a shadow to how I looked. I was the most dangerous and beautiful creature to walk this planet. People, men and women alike, threw themselves at my feet just to be in my presence and hope I'd give them so much as a glance, retorted Kyuubi, refusing to let Naruto even think his sexy jutsu could compare to its female form. Only for the fox to instantly slap a hand over its mouth in mortification at what it just revealed, while Naruto mentally cackled. So you like people bowing at your feet and worshipping you? I guess that makes you a princess. Kayuhaime thought Naruto, loving that the Kyuubi just gave him even more material to use. Of course, this is all just a fairy tale, so who knows what really happened. The opposite could have happened for all we know. Tasai stated, with Naruto simply smiling viciously since the Kyuubi had just confirmed everything he said was true. What do you think, Caillou-chan? Want to show everyone the most beautiful and dangerous creature in the world? Naruto thought, with the Kyuubi growling in rage. I will devour your heart, Naruto. You will beg and scream for mercy, Kyuubi roared. What a naughty vixen, already wanting to get me begging for mercy, Caillou-chan. At least I know you like being in charge, thought Naruto, his mental laughter growing louder as he started hearing a banging within his mindscape. I think that's enough of a history lesson. I want to get started on Zan-Jetsu with this new material, Naruto said, deciding to give the flustered Biju some mercy, along with being eager to get started on Zan-Jetsu. Then let's get started, shall we? Stated Toyosai, as the whiskered Ravenet nodded in agreement before they got to work on the sword. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 5. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Windstorm 16 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.